information. It's becoming more mainstream that the social sciences have been corrupted by postmodernism, right?
Oh my God.
Anything that I wouldn't
We
hear
literally
in a
have corrupt scholarship emerging, literally, like showing that these ideas that he keeps dismissing or just ignoring have actual power now in academia and even in the Democratic Party now.
What
So
are
like
you
I said, it's
saying?
becoming harder and harder and harder for people like Joe to keep their heads buried in the sand.
everything you
Yo,
said.
Tom, remember when like an hour and a half ago you said this isn't interesting? Can you please like enforce that policy? I'm gonna like fucking put my head through a brick wall if I hear another like word out of this mongoloid.
More than
Oh,
That's
Sorry,
racist.
we weren't going to be an audience with you, Brad.
That's a little problematic.
I think we just gave him a pretty big audience for it.
you're saying this as I'm watching like a Mongolian film, by the way.
JonJon, what do you think of this graphing of
JJ, shut up!
No. I don't know what he thinks of this graph that you posted.
Hagar,
JonJon, do you see the graph that Satan posted?
Yes, Gus?
you know that the epithet mongoloid actually refers to Down syndrome people, right?
Yeah, Mongolo.
Okay.
Someone wrote me, they're like, did you mention Chloe Arden? So I guess some other guy was like, you know, checking out some fucking, this is just degenerate, you know?
In
Was that guy
Spanish.
you?
No, she went to my middle school.
I don't know who she is. Is she hotter than Haley? What's her noodle?
Haley, what's her noodle?
I don't even know if that's her first name. Tom, do you remember that?
No,
one
it's just
name?
weird.
Is her
because
last name
videos-
What's Her
listen,
Noodle?
Chloe Arden
I
is a
don't-
good example.
No idea.
Chloe Arden would be a good example of what I was trying to get at about how off the rails this can go. Like this girl was suffering from mental illness,
Off the rails.
and like she was trying to make normal videos, and the normal videos just kind of turned into like her posting half naked shit to get a ton of views from these perverts and to maintain her following. And by the time she had like fucking 20,000 subscribers, she was already talking about making merch and getting all excited and like appealing to her audience. And appealing to her audience meant something, like I said, doing degenerate naked shit. And the entire time this is happening, she's completely suffering mentally from dysphoria. Like this is
For
just
God's sake, sugar, would you
Oh,
shut
it's
up?
not a
that
good
sucks.
thing, man. But yeah, I mean, it's a relatively attractive person. Like I think his sister is pretty hot, blonde chick.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
Who? Yeah,
Well,
John.
like
Did
these
you see
people,
John,
these
did you-
trainings are. Go
Yeah,
ahead,
yeah.
Tom.
I don't give a shit. Did you see the graph of average IQ among college majors? Did you see that?
Are we going to go back to this?
Let me see.
Oh,
Shit's about to go
what are we getting
down.
from the graph?
Poor
What are you
thing.
concluding from the graph?
JonJon, I swear to God, if you abuse your dog again, I swear.
KJ, come here. Come here, I'm gonna lick that pussy.
By the ill, that's
Oh my
disgusting.
God, what's wrong with you?
It's the demon.
Oh my god.
Wait, is he
Whoa.
on cam?
Disgusting.
The degeneracy just skyrocketed.
There's nothing wrong with JonJon licking his dog's pussy.
Can
What?
you please
God.
stop?
I don't know what's being
John,
concluded
John.
from this graph, JJ.
Hey, JonJon, I heard someone made
I
an
asked you
accusation.
what you thought of it. I just
Can we
wondered if you saw
quote?
it.
Can we quote JJ saying
No, I
No, we
wanted-
can't quote JJ saying that.
that? Just to
You
go on the
absolutely
record.
can.
Whatever.
Oh
There's
my
nothing
god,
wrong
JJ,
with
I
that.
see it. I see it now. I see it. I could
challenge
point
anyone.
something out. I can use this chart to point something out. I should have saw this
Oh,
sooner.
yay!
But
Just
what's
what we
crazy is
want.
the way
More
the universities
JonJon.
work. Oh my god, I'm so glad I
Let's
remembered
have
this
more
because this is so
JonJon.
important for people to understand.
Just in case
The
anybody
way
in
our
the room doesn't
universities
already
work,
have a
listen,
headache.
All right, less over
the
talking.
way our universities,
But
listen, the way
why
our
do we let him
universities
go
work,
on
they're
like
very
this?
corrupt because of capitalistic motives, right? Like
you-
for
you
example,
expect-
The
way
solution
way
isn't
colleges
over
give
talking.
grants, for example.
Well, what is
Right.
the solution then? Because this
Not
isn't
this.
working.
Hey,
Well, this isn't working.
I
What is
know.
This
I
isn't working.
this? He's trying to have a conversation with JJ right now. I don't know why you're over talking him.
Because
I just wanted to know what
he's
he
a
thought
fucking
about the graph.
idiot.
He's asked him a question and he's answering.
He's an idiot.
I
Shut
still
up.
want
I'm
to
a
know
goddamn moron.
what he thinks about the graph. And what did you say?
Oh, what's so interesting, JJ, is you see this is such
This
a
is how we
lovely
get
point to be
hours and
making right
hours
now.
of
You
this
see the
shit.
social work at the bottom? Oh
I
my
do. I see
God.
that.
Oh my God. Well, this is to be expected, JJ. We've known this for all along. We didn't even have to look at that fucking chart to know that.
No,
For
no,
example,
please, just let him talk.
for
I
example,
mean, why not?
the way the colleges work, I can tell you why this happened, right? The way the colleges work, the way like basically these colleges are selling kids Pleasure Island. They have a reason. They look at these kids as paychecks, right? Like they want kids to attend their universities so they can make more money. They
Yep,
want grants,
true.
for
Uh-huh,
example, because
yep,
when they get a
okay.
grant, They get
Yeah.
half the money from the grants,
Yeah.
and
the
that's what
most
goes to
important
building the
thing here
buildings
is
and
I'm
infrastructure.
overtalking.
Yeah. We got it. We got it.
So
Next.
the point is that these college campuses are being a little bit corrupted by capitalist motives, and
Right. How?
so
Mhm.
How?
because, like, for example, the way the colleges should be is that we should offer a really good education, and we should challenge
Those aren't
students. Like
exclusive,
like
though.
for example, colleges are like experimental laboratories, right? But to be honest with you, what we want is for you to go to college and to have your ideas challenged in the war of ideas in some sense, and to grow and
Not
to formulate your
necessarily.
own views and things like that. So what's happened
Yeah, you're supposed to learn
is
shit at college.
they, like, a lot of
Yeah.
times they, like, what we say, just to keep it short, there's a lot that can be said, but to keep it short, the level of education has been diluted tremendously. So in other words, when you get into like those social sciences, or like the social work, like gender studies or whatever it is, things like that,
Lol.
like, make no mistake, you cannot flunk out of these fields. But
Yes,
that's
you
why
can.
it's so funny to see that chart,
Yes,
because
you
it's showing
can.
that the people with the social work and shit like that, they have the lowest IQ. That's fucking hilarious, because of course they do, because that's the way it was set up. It was set up so that
No,
these
it
courses are
wasn't.
almost impossible to flunk out of. And you
Yes, you
basically,
can.
they just create little activists. They create
I-
little fucking,
I don't think
Well,
that
critical
for
follows.
race
Christ's
theorist
sake.
activists.
I don't think that follows, JonJon. Why
Well,
is
think
it
about it
that
this way, JJ. Hold on, think about it this way, JJ.
are you saying that
If you
studying
want,
those
listen,
things
because
are
I think you'll
driving their
understand it this
IQs
way. No,
down?
no. You'll understand it this way.
Okay.
If you're a university and you need money, you need to
Uh-huh.
be able to make a ton of money. And
Uh-huh.
in each and every one of these kids coming to university is a paycheck. If that's the case,
Uh-huh.
JJ, then you don't want these kids to have a rough time at college. You don't want these kids to come to college and have to work hard. And this is so unfortunate, JJ. This is a fucking tragedy, because that's what we do want. We want kids to come work hard. We want them to be challenged. We want
What
their
about it,
ideas to be
though?
challenged, right?
They
But
do get
but you'll lose. For example, if college is hard, then
It
you're
is.
going to see a little bit less people attending. But if you make college so fucking easy, if you make all these fucking fields that are useless economically speaking, but people can get, then guess what? You're gonna see a lot of kids not, like, flunking out, right? They'll get these degrees, right? And then you're getting their money, like
JonJon, do you
the
know
main
where
point I'm
colleges
making
make
is
the
that the
vast
level
amount of
of
their money?
education gets diluted. The level of
Oh.
education is lost.
JonJon, do you know where the colleges
substituted for
make the vast
capitalist
amount of their
motives.
money? JonJon, the colleges get the vast amount of their money from students
But just to be
by
clear,
encouraging
JJ, when we look
by
at that
encouraging
chart,
international students. For instance, there are two
Right.
universities here in Canada, okay? And that's where they make the majority of their money, by milking international students for everything they can get out of them. The domestic students are almost a loss leader for these universities. And it's the same for a lot of universities all the way up and down, at least the Eastern Seaboard. It's the international students that, because they'll get an international student here and they'll easily charge them double the tuition of a so-called legacy student, which I think is a stupid name for them. I mean, you need to know.
What is
Jesus
it?
Christ, John, I need to know what
Residency?
the fuck you're talking about. It would be nice if at least once in this 2.5 hour tirade, you would know what the fuck you were talking about.
I thought the entertainment was from the fact that he does know what he's talking about, but he acts like he does, like a trained monkey.
Yeah,
a parrot.
well, I'm not so sure, Sock.
my bad, I cut out. But I was saying, like, yeah, like the
It's
universities
like
have
when
a
you say,
motive
like,
and a
you tell a
reason to
parrot, like,
create
y
tons
equals
of
MC
useless.
square, and the parrot says y equals MC square. It's funny because the parrot has no idea what it's saying. That's what's funny about
I mean,
JonJon.
how long can you watch this before eventually you get a headache, Sock?
Listen, you
Well, to be
guys
fair,
can
I'm
be
like
arrogant. You
tuning
guys can
in and
be
out a little
arrogant
bit,
if you like, but you'll
so
do so
it's
at your
not.
own
It
peril.
hasn't yet. The novelty hasn't yet worn off yet.
You guys have nothing to offer, though. You guys sit around not even being able to address anything.
See, what? I
You're
don't know how
fucked.
you don't find this parrot interesting.
Well, the problem, unfortunately, is that the parrot keeps nipping at people.
Right, but
Yeah,
like,
the only problem
imagine,
is
imagine like
the
a parrot
crude
had said,
satisfaction
"Hey
you
guys,
guys
fuck
get
you."
from
Like,
acting
it's just a
arrogant
parrot.
online.
Like, it's just learned to say if
You guys are a
it's just learned to
fucking
say a
joke.
few
You're
words.
insecure. Listen to you
Excuse
right
me,
now. You sound
JonJon,
like a
please don't
little girl.
overtalk. Somebody muzzle this parrot. You know, we
Now
can't
you're
have
talking
overtalking
about
on the
trying to
server.
get me muted so that you
JonJon,
can
I
just continue
apologize
shit
for being
talking.
biased and bigoted neoliberal Marxist.
Stop talking
No,
over each
just
other.
apologize for crying.
Nobody's going to
I
apologize
don't
to you.
know.
If you saw saying mean things about you, you wouldn't be offended at the parrot because it doesn't know what it's saying.
Yeah, you're a garbage interlocutor.
Yeah, I'm not offended.
I mean, I may not hold it against the parrot that the parrot screeches, but I'd still throw a blanket over its cage.
Oh my
Yeah,
lord.
and there's a point where like
Go
you
to
want the
sleep,
parrot to shut up about like what it doesn't know about about schools.
Hey, you guys are touching butts.
Well, you know,
Congratulations.
Oh, I missed that.
It's been a while since I've heard authentic butt touching.
Touch butts.
There was this funny thing.
You hear
so,
this shit? It's
yeah,
fucking
this is
amazing.
hilarious.
I mean,
He was
Socrates, there's only so many.
trying to
Socrates,
talk
there's only so
about-
many wrong things I can hear before I step in and say something.
Listen to them
That's
talking
fair.
over each other.
I just wanted
as
to
they're
tell you
touching
something funny that
butts.
happened with
There
John
are
John.
remnants
There
of the old ways.
There was this guy who was criticizing postmodernism. His name is I think Steve Hicks, right? Now I've read in a lot of philosophical journals, this guy is like a hack when it came to analyzing postmodernism. And JonJon, when I brought up the critiques, JonJon said, "Oh, you looked at that cuck philosophy thing, didn't you?" I'd never heard of it, so I went to go watch it, and it was just like a way better takedown.
Oh, it's
like
so good.
JonJon led me to an even better critique.
Oh
of-
yeah, I showed JonJon that. It's actually a really really good like video. Like he has such good stuff on it. But yeah, the Stephen Hicks
Oh,
one,
listen, big
like pretty
chum
thorough,
time.
right?
Just
yeah,
put
like
the
it
DM.
was on point. Like so,
It's
Listen,
just
big
like
chum
he can't
time.
get medieval philosophy
Tell
right.
tell
He
these
can't
guys
get
about
like
our DMs,
pre-medieval
big
one of the
chum.
funny
philosophy right.
things that he brings
Big
up was
chum
that I
is
didn't
a
even realize
massive
that a lot
fucking
of the
Stop
coward.
segments
over
writers that
talking.
he yeah, can you stop over talking,
No,
John?
you
We're
guys are
trying to have
just
a
talking
conversation
shit the whole
I'm
time.
just trying
Fuck
to
you
talk
guys.
to my
Excuse
good
What
me.
is
buddy
this
Socrates.
nonsense? Why are you
All
guys
right.
allowed to?
We're trying to have a conversation
Oh,
here.
I'd like
If
to
you
see
wanna
this
talk-
big cuck philosophy. What is it?
Oh, it's
He
called
has a
cuck-
video on Stephen Hicks' book explaining postmodernism, where it's about 40 minutes, and he just goes very very in depth about like all of the even just basic philosophical historical mistakes that Stephen Hicks makes, and that's like ignoring the part when he actually addresses what he has to say about postmodernism.
Interesting.
One of my favorite things is he cites a bunch of these feminist writers as postmodernists when they themselves are explicitly non-post. They're very structural. They're very like into like the modernist tradition. Like there's no one would ever confuse them as a postmodernist or or a post-structuralist analysis. It's almost funny.
Am I still muted?
No.
Oh, well, John, did you have anything to say?
Okay, listen. So now that I'm unmuted,
Yeah. Now that
just to be clear,
now that it's your turn to talk because somebody else was talking.
You don't want to be over talking people, John. Learn some manners.
well, listen. First off, what's taking place right now is disgraceful.
Oh.
Between Big Chum and the other guy talking about Stephen Hicks, it's absolutely fucking. It's
Boring.
beyond annoying to be fair with you guys, right?
Mm.
So, for example, Big Chum Time, why don't you share our DMs? For example, I exposed Big Chum Time already, right, in our DMs. I promise you, any reasonable person would conclude that Big Chum Time is a fucking coward ideologue, right?
Oh,
Based off our DMs.
Oh
alone.
my god.
Right?
Oh, Chum, how will you ever recover from this?
To be
Because
fair,
people are
JonJon, you're like the
serious, rash
you're like the
ideologues.
biggest
You can't
dude. You're the
communicate with
biggest
these people
ideologue in the
literally.
room, dude. No.
This is brutal humiliation.
Look, there's no point. There's no point posting the DMs. I mean, I guess if you want, we can like talk
Yes,
about
just
it. But
post the DMs. Once you
I-
screenshot our DMs, Big Chum.
I chose
just a
to
red herring.
ignore you after you
Yeah,
repeatedly
just
just made
screenshot.
personal attacks.
Do you want me to do it, or are you gonna do it? Are you too much of a
Can-
pussy to do it?
Ooh, John, can I
Just a
leak
red
our
herring.
DMs? Can I leak our DMs, John?
Do it. Fucking do it.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah, but Big Chum Time tried to explain to me that Sam Harris was racist, right? Like a fucking stupid
For
fuck that he is, right? And I explained to him immediately. I immediately played 3D chess with that fucking idiot, right? Because he always says, John, you don't know
Jeez.
anything about postmodernism. You don't know anything about critical race theory, this and that. And I literally showed him. I sent him a PDF. I showed him a fucking doctor in sociology. These people were claiming math was racist, science and statistics are racist. And he's wanting to sit there telling me that Sam Harris is fucking racist because of his misuse of statistics. And the moment I showed him a PDF of scholarship and fucking a doctor claiming that the statistics themselves are racist, he just tells me that's not a thing. I don't know what I'm talking about. He's doing the same thing these other pussies do. They fail to address anything. They can't do it.
No, do you
These are
think that
fucking
J?
ideologues
Do you
who
think?
will never
Just let me
address
know when it's my
critical
turn.
race theory and its role in all of this.
Do you think that JHC is also a coward? Because he said the same thing.
No, because JHC acknowledged it. JHC said yes, these are real thinkers. Big Chum Time can't do that, right? He
No,
can't
in
even
the sense that
acknowledge
that
these
they
are actual
exist.
ideas. In fact, I completely smashed him, right? Because he made a claim
My
that I
God,
corrected.
dude.
And I told him in the DMs, I said, listen, man, you can walk that claim
I'm
back
getting
if you
tired
want.
of this.
This is just a
That's
cry
what I'm
for
saying.
help.
If he would just
Glad
post our
somebody's
DMs, he's
finally
too afraid
fucking
though.
tired
Come
of
on,
it.
cry
I'm
fest,
busy,
man.
but is it my turn?
It's your turn now,
Like
John.
I said, let me
Alright,
just
cool.
point out
It's
the
his
claim.
turn.
You made the claim.
Oh my
I'll
god.
let him finish. It's.
No,
Oh
no,
God,
don't
always
do it.
letting it
I'm
No,
just
no.
wondering
Good
what the claim I made was, but I had 3 notes that I took there. The PDF you sent me, I tried to talk to you about it, and it just seems like you hadn't read the PDF because I asked you if you read it and you just ignored it and then just responded to like other stuff in my message. I never once brought up critical race theory. That was something that you did, and then you just randomly wanted to start talking about it for some reason in response to me saying that some of the shit that Sam Harris is saying is racist, like genetics determined 50 to 80% of IQ test scores. Seems pretty racist. And you seem like kind of like you're putting words in my mouth. Done.
Well, the argument against that, the idea that genetics can contribute 100% to,
Jesus Christ.
but I mean, it can still the best explanation for high IQs.
All right, so
is going to
here's
be
the
environmental.
John, Joe is talking, right?
yeah.
This has been explained to him a couple times. I don't think he actually
between
understands it.
me and
So
Well, he's
Chum
obviously
Time.
not even listening.
Problems he just doesn't hear.
He's
Like
just
he
gonna.
has like an auditory problem. Blah.
He's
So,
just.
I'm telling
so,
you.
I mean, if
I'm
it
gonna do
has
the
to, if you guys
service,
are just
and
gonna
then when
misbehave the entire
Socrates.
time, I mean, Big
John
Chum, let's just go to
wants to
another room really
interrupt
quick.
Joe, I will interrupt John to let him know that in virtue of his auditory disability is interrupting Joe. So please continue, Joe.
I told him he might be on the
Let me
spectrum because,
address
like,
Big Chum Time, you socially retarded.
I'm sorry, John. But Joe just
that's
was
ableist.
talking right now.
That's also pretty ableist to use retarded that way.
Well, he's a.
Jesus fucking Christ. Big Chum Time's trying to address me. All of you ignore it. You're so socially retarded, it's
Have
absurd.
you read the
that,
PDF?
hold on. Well, why don't you respond directly to what Big Chum Time said? How about that?
Mhm.
Because the only thing I'm interested in doing is exposing our DMs directly. I want to quote what was said. I don't
Alright,
want
did
to
you read
hear
the
his
PDF?
synopsis of what was taking place, right?
You know, the PDF you sent me, did you read it?
I didn't read all of it, no.
Did you read any of it? That's not the
Yes.
title. Did you read anything that's not the title?
Yeah, you have to understand my only
Did you read the
goal.
first paragraph?
Did you read anything that's
pointing
not the
that out.
title? I really would like an answer to that. I'm
Can
really
we narrow it
interested.
down to the first paragraph, maybe?
Listen, all of this is irrelevant. This is why Jesus Christ, you
You're
guys are a
digging a
fucking
hole
joke.
for yourself.
It's a
By
very
not
deep
responding,
All
you're
right,
digging a
so-
hole.
It's a very deep hole.
Oh my lord. This
All right,
is
so there was a
just-
lot. There's a lot that was said between
You're
me and Big Chum.
disappointing me, JonJon.
Okay, so
You
you
don't
didn't read
say.
it.
Of course, he's
This
never
is
read
just your way
anything.
of dismissing me before even letting me make my points. This is
Well,
a very
you
bad.
could have
This is
answered
just
if you
another
read it.
tactic.
Did you read it?
No, for the second time, no.
All right.
Wow.
Well, that's the first time I heard,
Jesus
so I'm glad
fucking
that
Christ,
you're saying
man.
He
it.
said in his own words, no, twice, I think.
Now I've heard
Let me
it,
just
yeah.
let me just show you the last thing I fucking sent him. I said,
That was still the first time.
I said, okay, so clearly I haven't been reading your full responses because I'll see you make a claim and I'll correct it. So I have to correct one thing at a time. So I'm well aware I haven't got to the Sam Harris stuff yet, and it seems like I haven't addressed you. And then here it goes. You literally said, and I quote, people don't say statistics are racist. That's a clear claim that you fucking made that I pounded your little asshole in on, Big Chum. I showed you a fucking doctor saying that math is racist, and you're still gonna hold that fucking claim to me. No one says this. No one
Wait,
says
Chum,
statistics
are you
racist.
saying that
You're
no
wrong, Chum.
one? Are you saying that
are
no
wrong
one
about this.
says?
Make no mistake.
Make no
I'll just
mistake,
continue. Hold on,
Chum.
let me continue. Because obviously I corrected that
You're
bullshit.
obviously making mistakes, Chum.
Chum, did you, when you said that, did you mean that there is not literally a single person in the world that believes this statement is true? Is that what you meant? Got him!
Data.
Yeah, I was being hyperbolic.
Yeah, okay.
Like
And
there's
you literally
one person.
said, and I quote, "People don't
Oh my
say
God, he's still
statistics are
talking.
racist." Now, if you want to
Still
walk back that claim, that's fine with me,
JonJon
but
was
I've done
made
more
at
than enough to
90%
show you
at
that's
this point.
false.
You
And he can't
can't
respond
walk.
to me, right?
He can't walk
Well,
back something that
right.
like
If you
wasn't
read,
what he intended.
I'm just
So
saying if you
keep in mind,
read the
understand
PDF
the
that
only
you
thing I want from Big
Dude,
Chum
stop
Time, right?
screaming! Jesus
No,
Christ,
this is
dude.
bullshit. This is bullshit.
Stop.
Right?
Just you can say
So
whatever
you're
you
in the
want. Just stop
fucking-
yelling.
I'm dealing with an activist ideologue when I'm dealing with Big Chum Time.
What?
Right?
I'm just saying if
You're
you
the biggest
if you,
ideologue in the
More
room,
well
bud.
thought out in his views
John,
than
John,
almost
if you-
everyone in the room.
can I
So when it
can
comes to Big
I
Chum
hello?
Time,
Okay.
it's extra.
All
I
right, go
can't
ahead
deal
and.
with it anymore. I can't deal with it anymore.
Just saying, I'd prefer that you not like just put words in my mouth and like talk about like whatever motivations or the only reason I come to conclusions or whatever. But if you read the PDF, you'd probably be able to understand whether or not they're actually saying that statistics themselves are racist, because they explained it in the paper, which you said you haven't read, but you linked it to me because it's like if I say like if I say to you, are facts racist, and then somebody has the view, yes, they're racist because you can use them in a racist context or whatever, but then like you post somebody saying that as if it's somebody that's literally saying that facts are racist and not the actual like closer statement of what's being said. It's the context that determines it. Whatever that.
Muted? Am I still muted?
No.
I
Wait,
got
is that all
someone
you
saying,
care
"Hey,
about?
don't let him treat you like that.
He's
Fight
not
the
gonna
fuck back,
respond to what he
whatever."
just said.
But so Big Chum, the only thing that I want you to do, notice in our DMs, if I show people the DMs, it's clear that you fail to acknowledge my concerns, because you made a claim that no one believes this shit. You're doing exactly what I'm claiming everyone else is doing. That when I try to point to you, because clearly you're trying to tell me that Sam Harris is racist, that the way he misused the statistics, he didn't understand the statistics very well, and because of this he was racist. And then my response to you was to try to help you understand that under critical race theory, and we have smart thinkers, right? Like you can't dismiss these ideas because we have really smart people talking about it all the time. And what these ideologues are talking about echoes what you're talking about. Like when I hear you say, "Oh, Sam Harris is racist," this is clearly some new revised version of racism, Big Chum Time. You shouldn't be so fucking stupid to not understand that. Clearly, Sam Harris is not fucking racist in the classical sense. We talk about racism.
Classical?
You're literally subscribing to some bullshit critical race
subscribe to
theory term of
classical
racism,
racism.
talking about how
What the
Sam
fuck?
Harris is racist now
Yeah,
because of
he
his
likes
misuse
Charles
of
Murray.
statistics. So
He
I
likes-
showed you
He likes
how
Charles Murray.
how
Yeah.
how these
Dude,
Yeah.
stop
people in
yelling,
academia
bro.
are trying to argue that statistics themselves are racist, that math is racist, science is racist. It's
No.
all. And the only thing I'm asking, right, is that you acknowledge these people exist. I feel like I've done more than enough to show you these people exist, and you still fail to acknowledge their existence. You can't fucking do it. I have great conversations about this with people, and it's just what sucks so much
I doubt
is
that
that
too.
otherwise, listen,
Trump.
the reason why I'm so passionate is
the
because
best
I see
conversation.
firsthand, listen, I see firsthand just how impossible it becomes to communicate with otherwise reasonable people. It is impossible to communicate critical race theory, postmodern ideas with people like Big Chum Time. You can't fucking do it. Trust me, you
What?
can't do it, right? And it's
Who
and
here
it
had
just sucks because I'm not alone. I've seen a lot of people come out and tell me the same thing, that they used to have friends who were otherwise reasonable people
This
who have
is
become
irrelevant.
SJWs, for
This is
example,
irrelevant.
and they can't communicate with these people anymore.
This is irrelevant.
Literally, Big Chum Time ignored me after I corrected a point he
Yeah.
made. He
No,
made a
you're-
fucking claim that I
Can we like get
flawlessly
off the
corrected,
meta?
and he ignored me.
Yeah.
Well, I
like,
don't think.
Calm
I
the
don't think
fuck
crying.
John
down,
can get
bro.
off the meta because
Just
the meta is
crying.
the reason.
So
is the
what
only thing
we're
that's stopping
dealing with here is
Chum-
this
Chum
new
put a
Stop
secular
crying.
SJWism,
Put
right?
something in front of him.
SJWism?
There's a claim that JonJon's supposed to be dealing with, but instead what JonJon has done is taken the conversation to the meta as a means of obfuscation. It's a lot of these Jordan Peterson types like to do this.
So
Yeah, I don't know your
the
response,
last thing
JonJon.
the last thing I wrote. This is the last thing I wrote. Big Chum time, right? And he ignored me. I said, and if you stop writing me without ever acknowledging I provided valid evidence that directly contradicted your claim that no one thinks statistics are racist, then you'll come across as a coward who's flirting with cognitive dissonance. You people have literally been dismissing these postmodernists for so long, and now it's backfired. And you can take cheap shots at me like you did when you said I'm talking about things I know nothing about. Are you going to say the same? Are you going to say the people behind the links I provided also don't know what they're talking about? LOL, like the sociologists? Once again, even if we can't come to the meeting of the minds,
My God, he's reading.
I hope our disagreements take place in the context of a friendship. So basically, I'm trying to keep that line of communication because I'm so familiar
like
with
when
what's taking
Neo
place
started
here.
believing.
It becomes impossible for people like me and Big Chum to communicate. And I'm not alone. Like I said,
He's
there's a lot
still
of people
going.
who have fallen into this
Yeah, I
SJW
feel like
woke
this is just
culture,
all
and they
JonJon
can no
right
longer
now.
communicate
This
with the
is
people
just
around
like
them.
crying
Constant
to
stream of
himself.
JonJon. Like we need a dam.
Yeah, it's fine.
I'm just saying, guys, when this happens to you, you'll be more passionate about it. Like once you see someone who you think is otherwise reasonable falling prey to ideas themselves,
JonJon all the
it'll
time.
freak you out a little bit.
JonJon, what the point of the conversation was, I just wanted to ask you one thing about Sam Harris, and then randomly you just want to start talking about like postmodern neo-Marxism or something, and race theory, which you said I brought
No,
up,
this
and
is
I
to
didn't
be
bring it up.
transparent, Big Chum. You wanted to explain to me why you thought Sam Harris was racist, and because he misused statistics or misread them, right? That's exactly what you were trying to do. And I'm not surprised you're trying to, say that Sam Harris is fucking racist, right?
Yeah, it's racist when you think that people's intelligence is determined 50 to 80% by genetics. When you're a neurophysicist and you should understand better, or whatever, you have like a PhD in neuroscience.
Yeah, well, there's a bit of doubt as to how he got that PhD.
Yeah, it was handed to him.
But yeah, he had an interview with Ezra Klein where he challenged him on like the David Duke stuff, or not the David Duke, but the wrote the Charles Murray stuff. He had Charles Murray on his podcast, and he didn't challenge him at all. He basically sucked him off. Like, yeah, that's something a racist would do. I think intelligence determined 80%, 50, 80% by genetics. That's something a racist would do. I mean, I don't know.
Well, listen, I'm gonna hope that this is the case. I'm gonna hope that I overreacted, and I'm gonna hope that I don't. I'm just gonna hope that my characterization of you, Big Chum, and my thoughts on you, it's just wrong. Like I'm gonna hope that a lot of the things I'm so terrified of, you would actually just reject. You're actually not into that.
John.
Like for example, like you could kind of see how I immediately jump to the like when I hear you try to tell me someone like Sam Harris is racist, and because of the way he used statistics. Me being familiar with critical race theory and the whole postmodernism shit, I immediately assumed that you were a victim of this new SJW woke left that's saying that all of history can be summed up as white people oppressing everyone and everything, and that follows over to the statistics, the math, everything's racist, right? But I'm not sure you believe that. That's why I posted a PDF. I'm trying to show you people that this is a real thing. Like these are critical race theorists who are gaining power even in a Democratic Party now. Like we see this type of thinking in, like for example,
Look, when
one
you
striking
said
example
that
would be
blank was
Black
racist,
Lives
I
Matter.
thought you meant that blank as a concept was racist, because that's the kind of pigeonholing schmuck that I
Well,
am.
I thought this was striking. Look, think about it this way: the Black Lives Matter official website.
Do you realize that you do this a lot, JonJon?
Right? They have posted things that they've been taking down. And
JonJon, do you realize that you do this all the time?
Family, huh?
You do realize you do this all the time, right? It's called pigeonholing.
What?
You pigeonholed Chum and you do it all the time. I'm just letting you know that the thing that you just did, that you just realized that you probably did, you do all the time. Somebody takes an opposite stance against you on some small issue, and you immediately like peg them as some kind of like Antifa super soldier or something. It's bizarre.
I think you're right. Actually.
Wow.
Holy shit!
You belong in existence. Wait. Did he just
I
admit a
think it's a
defeat?
symptom.
We don't deserve
I think it's a
JonJon.
symptom.
Was that
Like,
whoa? Whoa!
JonJon admitted a
Thank you,
defeat.
JonJon.
Hold on a second. I'm having a stroke. I
No,
could have
there's a-
sworn I just made a point to JonJon and he conceded right away. What the fuck?
I love
Hold on a
the
second.
idea of JonJon going, "Oh wait, were you saying that I'm always right? Is that what I heard you say?" Because yeah, you are right there.
No, he's right. He's right. Like I did that with Big Time, right? I heard him talk about Sam Harris being
Oh,
racist
God
and
damn it.
how he used statistics, and I automatically assumed he was one of these critical race theorists, ideologues.
Oh my god.
Are you trolling us?
I hate this.
No, listen, man. I think, like, I've never had. It's not that bad, but I've never had. Like, I do have some kind of anxiety, so to speak, in my philosophy now. Like, I'm worried. I'm genuinely worried about what's happening now.
You don't have
And
a
a lot of it.
philosophy.
So I think you're picking up on that. It's a symptom. Like, for example, I've been trying to sound the alarm on these critical race theorists. I've been trying to sound the alarm on these postmodern neo-Marxists for years now. And you guys have been dismissing me for years now. And now I'm getting the last laugh because now it's becoming mainstream. Now it's in every city and every state. We have people talking about this all the time now. But
What
now,
is?
but for example, along the way, I'm like, I've noticed, and other people have come to me with this, telling me that they know people who have become encompassed in this SJW woke culture and have become unapproachable, they can't talk to these people anymore. They can't communicate with these people any longer, right? So when I talk to Big Time and I'm sending him PDFs, I'm showing him sociologists and doctors saying this stuff, that math is racist and stuff, and I cannot get him to acknowledge these people. And in fact, he tells me things like, no one says statistics are racist. He's just denying this shit. I freak out a little bit because I consider Big Time to be very reasonable. He's intelligent. There should be no reason why me and him can't communicate. Why I can't get him to acknowledge these things. So
Here's a
when
question. Did you read
make
the
no
PDF
mistake,
that
I
you
could not
sent
get
him?
him to acknowledge it, right?
Acknowledge false things.
And that's where the anxiety is stemming from. It's fucking insane to experience that. The idea that you think you know someone who is really reasonable, level-headed,
Anxiety that a
but
flat earther has.
but you can no longer communicate with. It's like this is insane. And once you start to understand why, like for example, this has made me hyper aware of the fact that we are indeed in some kind of war of ideas, right?
I think
No, we're not.
JonJon is just really high right now.
He did admit to that actually earlier.
When you say we're not in the war of ideas, I don't understand because literally we have people calling for political and social revolution. But you don't think that this is some kind of war of ideas?
You're always going to have people calling for revolution.
Like one thing I want to point out is just how corrupt things are. Like the Black Lives Matter movement, as you guys may have already picked up on, has been taken over by neo-Marxists, right? And the official Black Lives
Postmodern
Matter
neo-Marxists.
website.
Come on,
I thought
official Black
I
Lives
thought the
Matter
founders
website
of it.
has
I
been-
thought the founders of
Yeah, they
it
accepted
were
it.
Marxists or something.
Yeah, the
Yeah, actually,
founders.
so there's actually, I mean, John, this is it might surprise you to know this, but like Martin Luther King, the original civil rights leaders had like strong communist ties to union leaders as well.
The Black
This isn't
Panthers.
This isn't new.
The Black Panthers, for example, were self-admitted Maoists,
No,
actually.
it's different. This is what I'm trying to say. Listen, these neo-Marxists, they don't care about
appreciate it
black.
now.
Listen, the neo-Marxists don't care about black lives specifically. They care about oppressor and oppressee. They care about anti-capitalism. And it becomes very clear. This is why a lot of the black people
That's
don't
not
like the
new.
idea that
It's not that
Marxists are
simple.
claiming.
That's not new.
So,
Also, what's
I'm
new
not- I
about
don't
that
care
exactly?
if it's fucking new or not. He
It's
just
not
made that
new.
fucking point. I just told him the same thing.
Well, it just sounds like
But
it sounds like
anyway.
it sounds like you're trying to complain about some like new wokeness or something. But like the fact that like workers' rights and labor parties and unionizing and communism is like inexorably like tied up with civil rights, especially black civil rights in this country, isn't new. Right? It's from its culmination.
That's not my point, Seth.
Wasn't Malcolm
point
X a
The point I'm
Marxist too?
trying to make, Seth, I haven't been able to get to it, is that these neo-Marxists have been
Stop
exposing
saying
themselves
new.
a little.
about their
They've been exposing themselves a little
What's
bit,
new?
and they've
What's
been
new
walking it
about
back.
them?
Well,
Will you
stop
shut
calling
the
people.
fuck up? Jesus
Well, what's
Christ!
Marxist about these guys?
No,
yeah?
seriously, you should stop calling everyone a new Marxist. I mean, I think you could fairly call them
First off,
socialists.
none of you even knows what neo-Marxist
Oh,
is,
that's
so
up
don't
your
tell
ass
me
and
how
go
to
women.
fucking use it.
Whoa.
JonJon.
Wait,
JonJon.
John, do you see any union activism from these BLM people?
Where's the
Listen,
unionism?
let me just make my point, people. My point
I
is
mean,
that,
your point is bad.
like, for
let's be
example, on the
honest. Like,
Black Lives Matter
an honest
website,
interlocutor would be
they've been
forced to
posting
concede that
certain
your point
things
is
that they've been deleting and taking back, like
What are you talking
anti-nuclear
about?
family sentiments, for
No
example.
one is anti-nuclear family. What do you mean? You're just
When
talking
you,
out of your
listen,
ass.
you're a complete fucking joke if you honestly
What?
believe that. If
Yeah,
you
we're
honestly
here.
believe that no
Disagree.
one in our fucking society believes in anti-nuclear family, you're a fucking joke.
No, there are, but like
You're
I don't
changing.
think that
Wait,
these
you changed
movements
the
So,
claim.
support this.
so you just, it's impossible to have a fucking dialogue with this
Yeah, there's
person.
like traditionalists who
being
think that
an-
the nuclear family is bad and there should be like one patriarch with all sorts of wives, you know?
I know
You know, the fact, and that's another thing that's not exactly new.
I don't
There have
know
been
if
critics of the nuclear
BLM has
family
any,
since
anything to
I
say
was in the
about
middle of a
unions and,
sentence. I was in the middle of a sentence.
doing general strikes and shit. You know?
I'm going to mute you. I have no tolerance for your stupid shit.
Yeah, because they're Marxist.
Oh,
And that's kind of what they're about.
Seth, let me
There
ask
have
you a
been
question.
critiques. There have been critiques of the nuclear family since the birth of Western philosophy. The first, Plato's Republic is anti-nuclear family.
Correct. But
Oh,
Seth,
cool. Hey, Gar.
I think, what do you think about this, Seth? I think this tells a lot. I think this is a useful question to ask and get answered. Like, for example, a lot of people, including me, I'm convinced that the reason why Trump is in office is because of this critical race theory boogeyman that we've all been trying to point out, that a lot of
I
people
think
won't
any.
acknowledge, right?
I think for the most
Like, for
part,
example,
anybody says
people got tired of
I
being
thought you were asking
told
me a
they're
question.
sexist. Hold on, but I'm gonna just be more clear. People got tired of being called sexist, misogynistic, and racist by these ideologues, right? And that put Trump in office. And it showed us damning things. Like, for example, the news, like CNN and things like these people were extremely out of touch from what from average Americans, right? They had no
That's
idea what,
wrong.
you know what I mean?
That's wrong. So yeah, that's absolutely wrong.
Well, all right. So do you at least
should,
agree the reason why Trump is in office
thought you
is
were
because
asking me a
of this
question. That's
political
weird.
correctness, for example?
No.
Well, okay. So
I
why?
don't agree. So first of all, I think everyone needs to be really careful when they say the reason Trump is in office, because the reason Trump is in office, that phrase usually brings about connotations of like the majority of people in America are upset for this one reason, and that's why they voted Trump into office. But that's not what happened. He's one of the least majority like elected presidents of all time. He was elected by a minority vote, and not, I think, because a lot of people were upset about PC culture. I think it was because people were ill-informed by his policies and didn't like Hillary
Come
Clinton.
on,
And Hillary
Seth.
Clinton looked really
I'm
shady.
old enough to
She was
remember
under
that
investigation at the time. She was under investigation for a good portion of the election, and then right before the election day, they reopened and closed like within days the investigation into her emails, which caused a lot of stir. It was a November surprise that cost her the election.
Well, yeah. I mean, you guys fucked up with Hillary. I agree. But the point is that the reason why,
well, I didn't.
Like, first off, a lot of there's
You
this
guys?
mob culture, like with this SJW woke culture. There's a lot of things that come along with it, like mob mentality. So a lot of people said they weren't going to vote for Trump, but did anyway. So we had a lot of people who just
I
weren't
don't
being
know about
honest
that.
with their views.
I don't think there's evidence for that.
And
I don't think
another
there's
thing I
evidence for that at
remember
all.
about that election,
Can we
I
talk
think
about that?
Hillary
Can we
fucked it
talk
up.
about that,
The
JonJon?
moment she said she wanted to
JonJon, just
increase
tell me
immigration
no.
by 500%, right? I think
JonJon.
back then a lot of people were terrified of immigration. It was one of the biggest problems at the time.
JonJon, can we?
JonJon, if you
It's
don't
things like
stop, I'm
that
gonna
that
do
made
something about
Trump
this.
really
Stop
appealing.
talking. God, you're just
JonJon,
rambling and yelling at your microphone. Do you hear yourself?
I tried to stop you for a second. I can't remember what the thing I was trying to respond to now. You said that. You said that. Were you mentioning the polls? Is that what happened? Oh no, yeah, people were lying about who they're going to vote for. I don't think that happened really at all. If you actually look at the polls, the week of the election, right? The state, the reason we thought Hillary Clinton was going to win because she had a few points over Trump in the states that she needed to win, and a few points. Usually, the margin of error is between like 1.4%, which is a really, really good poll, and something upwards of almost 5% sometimes, usually around 3%. And Hillary Clinton, in almost all of the polls in the swing states that she lost, she was either in the margin of error ahead or very close to ahead in the margin of error, which meant that if anyone was paying attention to how polls work, they'd be very, very skeptical on whether or not she was ahead. That's not due to people lying in the polls. That's just due to That's just due to how polls work, right? The fact is you don't have 100% of the people who are going to vote. Some of the people that you ask are going to vote aren't going to go out to vote. There's some skews on whether or not you pull landlines versus cell phones, or whether or not you mail in. All these different things. Hillary Clinton lost because she was only leading with a margin of error of the swing states she needed to carry.
Okay. Are you done?
Hey, stop talking, JonJon.
I'm not allowed to respond to Seth.
Oh my god.
Of course
Hello?
you are. We're waiting.
Stop
Oh, I thought
talking.
you said stop. I thought you said
Is this
stop.
has all this over talking been just the outcome of you not understanding that when the other person stops talking, then it's your turn? Is that what's been happening?
Well, I mean, there's been so much over talking. I just didn't want to butt in and then be accused of talking. It was stupid.
Okay, it's your
But,
turn. Go ahead, buddy. He stopped talking for future reference. When they stop talking, generally, that's when you can go. Go ahead.
Yeah, so Seth, I think you're talking past me a little bit. Like, for example, I think that with the political correctness running rampant, and we had a lot of people claiming everyone was racist, everyone was sexist. You had a lot, like, for example, you had Milo Stewart. You had all these fucking ideologues popping up talking about everyone's sexist, everyone's transphobic, yada yada yada. So this political correctness, this critical race theorist bullshit, it existed back then, and we've seen a lot of it running around, and people got fed up with that shit. And that made Trump very appealing because Trump was just shitting on the establishment.
Do you have
He
any
was saying,
numbers
"Oh,
to support
fake news
this?
fake news that." Yeah, you want what?
No, it's a
So
broad.
you-
He's
you're-
giving a broad narrative.
Yeah, I know. I'm just pointing it out. Look, you have this idea that people were upset about being forced to be, I guess, too PC, and as a reaction, they voted for Trump.
It's one of
who's
many
not PC.
aspects
Do you
of it.
have
There's-
do you
it's
have
just
any
one of
do you
many
have
reasons.
anything do you have anything other than your feelings to back this up?
Well, I think another aspect that I haven't really established very well.
Is that a
right?
no?
Well, probably. I don't know what do you want? What do you like, a survey?
I don't know. There could be a survey. I don't know. I'm asking how you came to this conclusion. Is this facts over feelings, or is this feelings over facts? Did you just come to this conclusion because it feels right?
The way I came to this conclusion is because I lived during this election. It wasn't that long ago. I saw
Right,
the
feelings. I
political
got
and
it.
social
Those
climate.
are your feelings. Good.
It's an analysis of the social and political climate stuff.
Oh, what analysis have you taken? Are there studies that I can look at?
Listen, man, you're better than this, dude. You don't have to
Better than
dismiss
what?
the
I'm just
dialogue,
pointing.
and you
Look,
don't
I'm
have
just
to
pointing
use
out
this
that
as a red
you're.
herring to not be able to
It's
talk
not a
about
red
things
herring at all.
correctly
Look,
because
you
people
can
have to
you
have
can you
surveys done.
look. Your feelings are totally valid. I'm not going to demean them in any way, shape, or form. But I will point out that my response to you, right, when I talked about the polling data, is actually statistics you could all look up. Go to 538.com
All right, that's
right now
fine. That's
and go look
fine.
at.
But
Hold
I'm
on, I'm not
okay. I
done.
don't
One
care about your
second, one
dismissal
second.
of
I'm
me.
almost
That's
done.
fine.
Hold
This is
on. I
absurd.
will finish in a second. John, you can go to wikipedia.com. You can look at the 2016 polls. You can
I
look at the
agreed with what
2016
you said
polls.
about
Hold
Hillary. I
on a
didn't even
second. Hold
disagree with
on a
that shit.
second.
Why would I
Hold
want to
on
fucking
one
argue
second.
against
One
Jesus,
second,
man.
John. One second.
One second.
I know you're. I know this is very
I
triggering
already
for you.
agreed with
Pointing
that,
out.
Seth.
Hold on
I
a
did.
second, John. I know this is very triggering for you. Pointing out the fact that a fucking libtard lefty like
Playing
me
something I don't
has
disagree with.
arguing is arguing from facts, right? You can actually look at the polling data for November and
Yeah, you're arguing from facts, and I'm arguing from feelings. Yada yada
Right.
yada. Are you?
Wait, what do you
fucking
mean?
done, man?
What do you mean
Jesus
yada
Christ.
yada yada? That's what the modernists would do, right?
Listen, literally, right? What this is boiling down to is him not granting me something like, I think, yes, I feel, right, with my feelings, right? I feel that most Americans were fed up with being told they were racist, for example. And he's not granting me this. In fact, he's throwing a big red herring, telling me I need surveys, this and that.
No,
In fact,
I didn't.
he's
I didn't
using
say anything
facts.
like that. No, I
This
said
is
just the
pathetic
opposite.
fucking
I
behavior.
said just the opposite. I said just the opposite, JonJon. Who have you been listening to? I said, look, your feelings are totally valid.
So
I might
but
feel
can
the
you
same
grant me
way.
that, Seth? All right, so let's just grant me that.
I
then,
grant
right?
that you
Will
feel
grant
that
me
way.
that most Americans got fed up with being told they're sexist, misogynistic, and racist? Will you
No,
grant me that?
I'm only
Okay,
granting that you feel
okay.
that way. I don't know if that's
At least
true.
you're transparent. At least you're fucking transparent, finally.
Well, I don't think that's true. I don't know why you think that's true other than your feelings. I mean, I just don't have any data to back that up. I'm sorry.
Do you think
I'm
that
not
the
saying
universe?
that your
do you think
feelings are
do you
invalid.
think
There
you have
might be
any
a
data?
really good reason you
Do you
feel
think
that
you
way.
have
I
any
don't know.
data to back up that the universe wasn't created last Sunday?
Yeah.
Okay, what kind of data would you use to back that up?
I would use radiometric
Surveys?
dating. Radiometric dating would be the first thing I'd go to. Memories.
Yeah, but the point is that you have no argument for
The fact
universe
that
not
my-
being
the
created
fact that
last
my-
Sunday. I
the
shouldn't
fact-
believe you. Why should I believe you?
The fact that
Sounds
the fact
deconstructionist.
that my pants.
It's not like you're dealing with an argument or anything.
You're being postmodernist.
I'm just fucking showing how autistic these fucking conversations can get. It's
Why
annoying.
are you using autism in that
Like-
way?
Like
But it's
literally,
not just
this
like-
fucking
hold on, but
guy
JonJon,
just
there's-
told me
there's
he's
a
not
huge
going
difference.
to grant me something that most
I
people
did
will
grant
fucking
it.
grant.
Well, he's
I
not going to
grant
grant
it.
Believe it or
I
not,
feel that
most
way.
people are going to be on my side of this. They're going to say JonJon is
Why
correct.
would we grant that
Most people during the
grant it?
2016 election were
I don't know
fed
if
up
that's
with
true.
being
Step
told
back,
they
step
were
back from your
racist, sexist,
microphone, please.
misogynistic. They were fed up with political correctness.
Wait.
But we have fucking people being skeptical about this. It's
I don't think
absurd.
that's true.
Listen, man.
If anything,
Literally, there were
I mean,
tons of
hold on,
YouTube
but I mean, if
videos that came
anything-
out in 2016. There were entire channels that became
If
popular
anything-
and monetized
whoa.
based solely off making fun of these people, making fun of the
If
SJW
anything-
PC
if
culture, right?
anything, why are you? Well,
None of that must exist.
John,
though.
if anything, the conservatives that voted for Trump just wanted people to be PC in the other direction. They were the thing about the election I think I heard most about in 2016 was how butthurt and triggered Trump supporters were because Hillary Clinton used the phrase "a basket full of deplorables." They were very, very
Listen,
upset
a
that
lot
Hillary
of us
Clinton
Trump
said that.
supporters-
Oh, I'm almost done. They were very, very upset that Hillary Clinton said that there's a portion of Trump supporters that are deplorable.
Listen,
Yeah,
people.
that wasn't very PC of her.
You
It wasn't
guys-
very PC,
Listen,
and Trump
people-
supporters were very upset.
These political correct people, right? They made Trump necessary. They put Trump in office, and people like Seth will never understand that. They'll never understand what American people actually believe because he lives in fucking San Francisco or like California
Does
for
he?
fuck's sake, right?
Wait, does he?
He's
I don't.
surrounded by
No, I don't.
ideology.
First of all,
Of course he doesn't. Of
First of
course
all,
this person is not in touch
no,
with
I'm
your
gonna
typical
stop you
average
right
American.
now. No,
right?
seriously,
He
John, stop.
literally thinks
Stop yelling, man.
No,
Jesus.
I'm muting you, John, because you need to hear this, and it needs to be. Don't like I don't know if you're making a joke or not, but if you actually think you know the city that I live in, don't fucking say it in here. Did you hear me, John?
John.
Yeah, I heard you. Am I muted?
Cool.
Oh my god,
Not
that's all you
anymore.
care about, being muted. Ugh.
No, I said it. I said, yeah, I heard him. And he said he didn't hear me. But yeah, I think that like for example, the news agencies and like they showed just how out of touch people they were. Like for example, they acted like anyone who voted for Trump was a monster. They acted like no one was going to vote.
Yeah,
for
well,
Trump.
I would agree with
And
that. I
Trump
think they
fucking
are.
won.
Yeah.
What is that?
Like
So what if Trump won?
everyone
What do you
was
mean?
so sure Hillary was going to win.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like we can't trust the media very much.
what?
Like that was one of the sentiments after the election is that the
She
media
did
can't really
get
be
the
trusted.
She did get the popular vote though.
That the media was completely out of touch with the average society. So, for example, what we're kind of dealing
Except,
with here is
I'm not
economic
sure that's
classes. Like,
true.
for example, we
What,
have a
did
bunch
she
of
not get the popular
spoiled.
vote?
Listen, we have a bunch of spoiled upper middle class, somewhat rich fucks who want to fix the world, who know nothing about what the average person wants, who know nothing about the real America, blue collar America, right?
I agree. That's why Trump.
Wait, do you think? Hold on a second. Do you think the average
And
person
that's
voted for
why
Trump?
Trump is in office.
Wow. Do
JonJon,
you
who
think
makes
the
the
average?
You have people like
cabinet?
Seth who would have listen. People like Seth would have you believe
Hold
that
on.
it's
JonJon,
appropriate to
look,
be
I'm tired of the
skeptical.
character assassination. We're all trying to have a conversation with you. Can you stop ranting for a minute and answer some questions?
I think
That's all I
when you
do
say
is answer questions. But
when
when I start asking questions,
when Republicans or conservatives say that the average person supports their candidate, they just mean like rural and like majority type
Boomer.
voters or like
Yeah.
owner class voters.
Boomer.
Yeah, sure.
But that's
Mostly
not.
boomers.
But there's no reason why they would pick that person as being the average American as opposed to just like some minimum wage laborer in like an urban city, right? I feel like
let me
that
just
might
give
be
you
the
one
average
example.
American.
Let me just give you another example of how I think this is just like the fact that you guys aren't going to be really familiar with what I'm about to bring up. It shows me that you guys are out of touch with why people like Trump, right? Like for example, Trump did something very good like a year or two ago, and
What did
it
he
flew under
do?
the radar. No one really acknowledged it, right?
What did he do?
But Trump literally took the fight straight to the critical race theorists, these postmodern neo-Marxists that Jordan Peterson and Brett
What are
Weinstein were
you
going at.
talking about?
JJ, come on.
All right, let's see what he's
Well, if you
talking
shut
about.
the fuck up long enough, you'd understand what I'm talking about, right?
You need a
But
full 10
anyway,
minutes to listen to him to understand.
like so hold on, you have to I'm having a brain fart. What was I
All
just
right,
mentioning?
tell
Because
us
I had this other guy
how
talking, I'm
Trump
trying to listen to what he's
how
saying.
Trump did the thing that you liked.
You said that he did a really good thing.
Oh
Like,
yeah, I remember, yeah.
Long time ago, he did a good thing.
So Trump took the fight straight to the because he signed into law. He signed some bill or whatever that made it to where college universities would lose their funding if they did not uphold freedom of speech. This was fucking amazing. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe this
I don't
fucking
think that was
happened.
a
I can't
law.
believe it. Because here we all are trying to get people to acknowledge this is a problem. And all of a sudden, the goddamn president,
Well, it
seems
let's
like
talk.
he knows what the problem is. He seems like
Let's
he knows
It's
about it. He's
actually
acknowledged it. And
it's
he cut the
actually
funding to these
unenforceable.
people.
Yeah, let's talk
So
about
it's
the
great.
law.
So
Some
now
kind of
he's
executive order.
What law did he sign?
so the
What was
fact
the
that you
name?
guys
It's an
don't care
executive.
about
It was
things
an
like that
executive
tells you
order. Hold
everything
on,
you need to know.
I care.
JonJon. So
I
I
wanna
actually
know.
know a little bit more about this than JonJon. I haven't read Epinude in a long time, but from what I remember when it happened, it was an executive order, and it's like wholly unenforceable, right? Basically, you'd have to be able to prove that you didn't want somebody on your campus because they were conservative or whatever.
Yeah, that's going to be easy to do in the age of social media. All you have to do is have
You really
tweets.
can't.
You can have tweets, DMs, things like that. You can have video. Like, look at what happened with Lindsay Shepard. Lindsay Shepard, she had a fucking audio recording of what took place, and she blew up because of it. Because we have people like you guys, like Big Chum Time and Seth, who keep turning a blind eye, telling everyone there's nothing to see here, this and that, and then bam,
Well,
this
even
bitch fucking has direct evidence, and she blows up because of it, right? And it turns out that Jordan Peterson was right all along.
Even if they didn't want them on their campus strictly because they were conservative, and they even said it, all that would happen would be they would just say, "Yeah, I said that, but the real reason I want him off the campus is because, he the white supremacist, or because he likes discriminatory hiring practices." Like
Yeah, but they have to prove that. Like, for example,
Well,
what
they could
Trump
just
is
say
trying to combat was this mob culture that we see, where they don't care about freedom of speech. I mean, for fuck's sake, guys, look at what happened to Brett Weinstein. Look at what happened to Jordan Peterson. Look at what happened to many other thinkers, right? Who were, like, for example, with Brett Weinstein, he was surrounded by kids who were screaming at him, and him being the good faith intellectual that he is, he tried to reason with these people, but they did not want to reason. They don't care about debate or any of that stuff. In fact, I've tried to shed light on how they view those things. They view debate and facts as meaningless tools of oppression. But you guys don't fucking listen, right? But at least the fucking president tried to, at least. Fuck.
So what's the bad thing that happened to Brett Weinstein? People yelled at him?
No, the bad thing that happened to Brett Weinstein was that he was attacked by a mob mentality, group of ideologues. These
What?
critical race theorist ideologues who don't believe
Stop
in
calling
freedom
them
of
critical
speech,
race
right?
theorists. How do you know those
Like
people
literally,
personally? Do you
they
know
don't
that they
care
actually
about your freedom of
subscribe to
speech.
that?
Listen, on a
That's what you
college
think.
campus,
That's what
on a
you
college
think.
campus, let me explain something to you, you fucking idiot.
Stop saying all these.
Freedom of
Just
speech
stop
is
that.
my
Who the
right
fuck are
to
these
offend you,
people?
right? I don't
Who
care
the
about your
fuck are
fucking
these
feelings.
people,
When I
JonJon?
go
Don't
to a
say all
university,
these.
I don't
Just
want to
say
hear about fucking trans rights and my
You're
ability to
just
not be able to
generalizing
offend
people
anyone.
under a
why
label
are
that
you
you think suits them.
Can we
why are
get
you talking
less
about trans
people talking
rights?
at once? That's Hagar, Scarlett, JonJon. Please defer to each other. Just
Okay.
please.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, people like me are getting the last laugh because this is becoming more and more mainstream. It's becoming more accessible, the shit that I've been trying to talk about for so long. And make no mistake, these people that have been telling me all this time, like Seth, Big Chum Time, that hey, John, you're just making up some imaginary boogeyman, postmodern neo-Marxism boogeyman. You're a fucking idiot. You don't know what you're talking about, any of that. Like that type of stuff is over. You guys are not going to get away with that stuff any longer. We have great fucking thinkers shedding light on what's happening here.
Right now, I just point out
I'm
the
just
fact that you're arguing from feels instead of facts.
yeah. If you want, I would love if it like the complaint was about anything other than just like people yelling at some speaker or whatever.
No, no, like you're missing the point. This is a symptom of the boogeyman you guys tell us doesn't exist. Like like we see it happening all the time. Like, make no mistake, what is happening right now is we are dealing with people like you guys telling people like us who know a lot about this shit that we are creating some kind of imaginary boogeyman. That no one believes that statistics are racist. In your quote, right? This is what you said to me directly, right? You're
Yeah.
wrong. You're wrong.
Well, if you
We
read
have
like
rather intelligent people. Listen, Big Chum, it doesn't bother
Sure.
you, Chum Time, that we have otherwise reasonable and intelligent people signing off on these ideas you think are so absurd. The ideas that math are racist, things like that. Like those are real ideas, and smart, intelligent people are subscribing to those ideas. I just want you to know that, right?
if you
I
take
want you to understand that.
if you take a like what do what do you call it when you're kind of like exaggerated with language? Like if you take a headline that exaggerates language and you don't read the contents of
Hyperbole.
it. Yeah, hyperbole. Yeah, if you take a hyperbolic statement and you interpret it as literal, then it can be really easy to have a very strong reaction negatively to it. But the important thing is that you don't let the idea scare you and turn you off, that you actually look into, and that causes you to look into what's being said instead of just reading the title and rejecting it. And that's probably the most like free exchange of ideas thing that there could possibly be. But it
Listen, I
sounds
can
like
understand you being upset that I didn't read that, but to be fair, I
if
don't.
you're making
I feel like I already knew what they were talking about because I listened to somebody talk about what it was saying, what it was getting at, and I didn't really want to go over it because I to be honest with you, I'm a little bit detested by this critical race theory bullshit. I hate it at this point, and I know so much about it that I can just somewhat understand what these people were trying to get at. And make no mistake that I'm pretty accurate. And like
You
when
were
I
too
tried to tell you
triggered by
what
the microaggression to continue reading, and you're arguing from your feelings. Got
I
it.
don't even know what race theory is or whatever
Jesus
the fuck you're talking
Christ.
about.
No, make no
JonJon, but
mistake
hold on,
that
JonJon.
we
You
have
hold on. I
people
just no.
trying to rewrite our history,
Hold
right?
on, JonJon.
The
Hold on.
postmodernists
I'm
have been
making a
trying to do
serious
this for a
point here,
long time.
JonJon. But I'm kind of making a serious. I know I'm being flippant here, but like here, I just want to point out, like here you are lamenting like the new left and safe spaces and not allowing critical speakers to come on. But you literally just told us you didn't read that because you were triggered by the topic, because you already heard other people talking about it. It upsets you, so you
No, it
didn't
was out of
read
laziness. It was out of laziness and uninterest, really.
Oh, now now it's laziness. Okay, it didn't sound like that before. The what you put out before seemed like you were too upset about it to read it. which is fine. That's totally normal. I wouldn't want somebody arguing for Israel to have to read like Mein Kampf. It probably has nothing. But I mean, just don't pretend like it doesn't happen to you.
I cut out. What'd you say?
Oh my god.
This. Are you
absolute cancer?
This is just the worst. This is the worst.
Now, what's the worst is that you guys being arrogant in the sidelines know fuck all about the topic at hand, but you're still
Why do
being
you
arrogant.
keep asserting us as
Like to generalize us
the
too.
worst.
why do you keep calling us arrogant and all these like pretentious like names, JonJon?
Because all you do, a majority, a
Yeah,
vast
JonJon,
majority
last
of what
time
you
we
have
talked
to
about
offer is nothing but pure arrogance.
Postmodernism, I demonstrated, and I knew way more on the topic than you did.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah, you were there. Remember I was talking to you? Did you forget? Or did you? Or out of laziness, did you just...
Listen, I didn't hear what Seth said. I don't know if it was that important or not.
Oh my fucking god.
Don't worry about it, JonJon. Everyone else heard it.
Who's ever
Right. So another thing that I noticed,
don't really
another red
expect you to
pill.
respond to me.
Excuse me,
so
I
I'm
was
just...
in the middle of speaking, but I wonder who else has ever had a good conversation with JonJon, and then like maintained this amicable relationship. I know it's not. I mean, besides JHC, but that's
Why are we
because
going
he hasn't
meta
been
with
human.
this?
Well, it's just like there's this notion.
That's all Socrates has.
Just this notion of like, I guess, it's just not, I don't have enough energy to go into why I'm going to the meta. It's very interesting, where on one hand you have JonJon saying you're all are dumb, and on the other hand, there's never been like a good conversation with him. Like this is very interesting.
No, it's true. I mean, you're absolutely right. The man's an idiot, but he's kept around because he's apparently considered to be, some sort of, like you say, a trained parrot. Well, this is what happens when you keep a trained parrot around.
To be fair, you guys all call each other idiots as well.
Gus, do you think JonJon?
What do you think's going on in his head when he like does this shit?
Gus, do you think JonJon would
much
like
pot.
Gus? I'm gonna get look. I have $100 for you to win. Right. I'm gonna go to a random person in the city of Chicago. I'm gonna pull him off the street. Random person, totally random. I'm gonna like, hey, debate JonJon about politics. Do you think JonJon? Do you bet that JonJon demolishes this person or
No.
loses to this person?
No. As a matter of fact, you could pull a random primate out of a fucking zoo.
This is what I'm
You could
talking
pull
about.
a
All I'm
random
getting
bird
is
out of a
arrogance.
fucking
You're
zoo,
shit talking me. You're
and you still-
dismissing me. That's all you guys have to offer. It's
You
just
know why?
despicable
JonJon?
behavior.
Because
You guys
at
add
best,
on to the mob mentality that you guys get critiqued for so
JonJon,
much.
stop talking for a moment. I want to hear Gus can finish.
I mean, my first statement was that you could pull a primate out of a random animal shelter and you could debate with JonJon, and that primate would fucking be superior to JonJon.
Kind of
My
racist,
second
but
point
okay.
is that My second point is that JonJon has turned himself into a socio-political version of those religious nuts that walk up and down the street with a sandwich board and a bell going, "Repent, for the end is nigh." And we should treat him the same way.
You guys,
I would agree with the sandwich board comment. I would agree with the sandwich board comment, but I disagree. I think the safe bet, if you're going to put JonJon up against a normie on the street, somebody who probably, I would think that the majority of people don't do what we do here, or even in blue politics. I think JonJon would probably demolish the average person on the street. My money would be on JonJon.
Yeah, I'd have to agree.
I just want to point out something because I want to get away from this degrading of me. But,
I guess that's $100 I'm happy to lose.
Because there is this red pill.
I don't get that. I get that mentality, Gus. I do.
Cajun, I want to see if I could try to get some of you to understand this red pill. I've gotten a lot of other people to understand it already.
Red pill.
I love
But
red
it's
pills.
something like this. I understood. It may be kind of trivially true to some people.
Candy, please. Just give me candy.
But I found it to be
red pills are the
interesting.
All right, stop
I found it to be
interrupting him.
interesting.
Jeez.
Yeah, I found it to be interesting when I first conceptualized it, right? And it's the idea that I realized that this new SJW woke left. Like, first off, I'm a little bit relieved. I'm relieved because for a long time I've been telling Democrats that they're in a state of crisis, right? The Democratic Party is. I tried to explain to Democrats that they have to do their best to try to differentiate themselves or separate themselves from the radical left. So regular liberals have to take back the Democratic Party. I've been trying to explain that for some time, right? And I realized that this identity politics game of grouping people into groups of identity based off their levels of oppression and shit like that under critical race theory, intersectionality, all that good shit. So that's what I think we finally figured it out. I think I know what the far
isn't that
left
exactly what
is.
Trump
I
does,
think
though?
I know where going too far is, and what's so crazy about this is that when I look at the far right, when I look at, like, for example, the far right, we can consider those the alt-righters. Like when we know you've gone too far right once you start talking about racial superiority, for example, and you're alt-right, like you're too far right, man. Like, but when it comes to the left, we had a hard time trying to figure out what was too far left, right? And we figured it out.
know what far
It's
left
this
is.
new SJW woke left, right? That's too far left.
SJWs aren't necessarily left.
Listen, here's the
Yeah,
red pill.
that's
Right?
progress.
Hold on, I haven't got to the red pill just yet. The red pill is this. Yeah, God has nothing to do with your arrogance, so just sit down.
Or with your logic, apparently.
So
All right, let's just let him
far
finish.
left, yeah, let this guy explain to you guys how to behave because you're kids. But anyway, so the far left and the far right have something strikingly similar, and it goes against what we've been taught by religion. Religion has been telling us that it's all about the individual and things like that. But now, for example, when the alt-righters talk about alt-right, they literally are just saying something like they want to start with group identity, or excuse me, they want to start with identity first, and then they want to do their politics later. That is what the alt-right is. And what's so crazy is that the far left, this new emerging SJW Democratic left, they do the same fucking thing. They start with identity politics first. They group everyone up into groups of oppression.
Almost all
and then they
politics
do
is
their
identity
politics later. They
politics.
start talking
Yeah,
about affirmative action.
ever since Palestine
Hold on.
Israel.
Hold on.
So this
hold
is
on.
a
So
fucking
hold on.
striking
I really
similarity between
you're
the
gonna,
alt-right,
you're
the
gonna have
far
to,
right, and the far
John,
left.
your red
I
pill's been
actually really want to have this conversation because I've been wanting to have this conversation. It's not going to go anywhere. Guys, I know this isn't going to happen, but I'm going to try anyways. Give me a minute. All right. JonJon.
Please grant some
JonJon.
charity.
Hold on. JonJon. What is identity politics?
Oh no.
No, I think that's the wrong approach. I
Identity-
agree with you, Seth, but
I think identity politics is as an emergence or like a byproduct, right, of intersectionality and postmodernism, critical race
All
theory.
right.
things like that.
Hey,
So,
whoa,
for example,
whoa. Let's use our small words. Let's break all those complicated big words into their components, okay?
yeah,
So
maybe it is a product of those things. But
Listen,
what is
I think identity politics is the same thing that the alt-right is getting at, but it's
what
the
is it?
left version of it, right?
What
okay,
is
I
it?
don't. Yeah, just explain.
Well,
Like,
what that
let's
means
pretend
is
I don't know what the
identity
left or the right
politics
is.
this. It
Tell
means
me
you
what
start with-
identity
listen,
politics is.
Listen,
I'm
identity
listening.
politics means you start with identity first and then do your politics. Right? So for example, under intersectionality and things
I'm
like
sorry,
that,
wait,
you
wait.
accept the hierarchy of oppression, right?
What would that be in opposition to, JonJon?
I don't
What?
know what I don't even know what that means. You start with your identity, then you do politics. What is
Yeah,
like?
we
Give
can
me
understand
like,
it
how
better
does-
though
what
if
does that
you
look
tell us
like?
what the alternative
Because
is.
listen, I'll tell you what it means, right? When you play identity politics, what you're doing is grouping people up into their levels of oppression or based off their levels of oppression. You
I think
use
there's a bunch of
intersectionality,
assumptions
right?
baked in here. What is
You guys don't know what
non-identity
fucking you
politics?
guys don't know what this shit is.
Oh my fucking god.
Oh, that's a good question.
Look, we're just trying to look. I just want to know what you think it is because actually, lots of people in here tend to have really. And
I just told
you've
you
been
3
known to have
different
this.
times what it is.
Hold
You're not
on a
engaging with
second.
me.
Hold on a second. Why are you being so triggered? We're just talking, JonJon. Have I insulted you, JonJon?
Because I'm gonna have to
No,
repeat myself.
I've
for the
only,
fourth
hey,
time.
bro, King. Look, all I've done is I built you up, right? When I asked Gus, like, if you beat someone in a debate, you thought I was putting you down, but you didn't hear me say that. I think you beat the average person in a debate. I think you demolish them. I think you're a Chad. Okay,
I appreciate that.
So
but what I'm trying
let's
to
just
bring up
have
right
this
now is
open
important to me.
dialogue without you being too
So
triggered about
address
this,
what
okay?
I'm saying. Yeah, just address what I'm saying.
I'm addressing what you're saying.
passionate about.
I'm just asking. Look, you're known. Correct me if I'm wrong. You are known for having proprietary definitions, correct?
Well, I don't know
False.
about that. He might use
False.
specific
You don't.
definitions.
You don't think that the average
Don't call them
the
proprietary. Just
you don't. Look, I think it's a little absurd, and I think JonJon needs to come to terms with the fact that most people in this room, in either server, think that JonJon is pretty loose with proprietary definitions. Okay.
Yeah, I'll grant you that.
So
That's fine.
I'll
grant you that.
So when I ask you what identity politics is, I'd rather not hear about neo-Marxists and the left or the right and Western culture. I just want to explain it to me like I'm 5. What
Well, when the
is
question was
identity
posed-
Okay,
politics?
that's okay. I get it.
John,
That's fair enough.
John, 1 second. When the question was posed, you went on to say where it came from and that it was the same thing that the right is doing. That's not telling us what it is. So I followed up with, what is non-identity politics? Maybe you could expound on something like that.
Non-identity politics would be something like cohering to more traditional religious values in terms of individualism, right? Like, for example, the reason why really smart people like psychiatrists or psychologists and evolutionary biologists, the reason why smart people are rejecting this shit is because they can see that it's turning us back into this group thinking,
Not looking at
this
motives,
tribalistic
really
thinking.
just looking at what it means for it to be identity politics. Don't care about motives.
You're asking me to tell me, what do you want? Do you want me to tell you what identity politics is or what it's not?
Both.
Okay, well, I just told you what it's not. It's not individualism, right?
What?
It's not. Whoa. What?
Can't be individualist. and
Listen, there was a
identity?
sacred religious idea that evolved alongside us that was something like the sacredness and sovereignty of the individual.
So
that
yeah,
that a person
really
must overcome
non-standard
one's
understanding.
suffering and make something of themselves. Now, these people are going back on that religious claim. They're saying that actually we're just going to group everyone up into groups of identity based off of their levels of oppression, right? So this is not good. We don't want that because that's racist, right? Because you're just a part of a group now. We don't see you as an individual. We see you as a part of an oppressed group. This is identity politics. Where do you think listen? When I say, listen, I'm going to try to do what Seth said. Seth was like, explain it like you would explain it to a 5-year-old, right?
This is a very weird
identity
definition.
politics. Listen, I'm going to try to explain it like I would to a 5-year-old. Identity politics is the process of grouping everyone up into groups based off their levels of oppression.
What? Speaking all slow and stuff.
I don't understand the based on their levels of oppression. part.
What?
More slowly
That
doesn't make it
doesn't
any
make
more
any.
clear.
That doesn't make any sense.
So if you're talking about,
It's because, like I said, intersection. Listen,
if you
what I
were
just
talking about
described is a prime
application-
description. Listen, let me
Get him,
clarify.
JonJon.
So
Get him.
what I just said is a description of intersectionality. Intersectionality is exactly what I just said, and intersectionality is what gave birth to identity politics.
No, it's not. That's
Does
just
anybody
wrong.
catch what identity politics is? But hold on, before JonJon, before you continue, anyone who's listening, based on what JonJon said, what is identity politics?
He's just basically trying to describe intersectionality.
It's grouping people based on their level of oppression.
Yeah,
Right.
that too.
When you
It's
group
just a
people
very,
into-
it's a
So
very
far, I've got-
niche definition.
So far, I've got like 2 different. What does it mean to be identity politics? Like he said, he's going to explain what it is and what it isn't. So either it's intersectionality or either it is people based on their oppression. What is it?
Wait, what turns on this actually?
I just want to see if anybody.
Why does it have to be oppression? I don't
I
understand.
just want to see, like, given JonJon's like length of time speaking, trying to explain what this is, if anybody actually understood him explain what identity politics is.
Yes, like this is exactly what the alt-right does. Listen, the alt-right, they don't. The reason why we don't like the alt-right is because they try to start with identity first. They try to say something like, "Listen, guys,
Not really. More than
we're just like your average Republican, your average writer, but we're just going to start with identity first. we think identity is paramount. It's the utmost importance. And I honestly don't see the difference in what the far left is doing here when they're saying something like, when they're playing their identity politics game, where they're using intersectionality to acknowledge some kind of oppression Olympics, and they're classing people based off their group oppression, right?
Well, I want to ask something real quick about the whole identity politics thing. When you say that it's different levels of oppression, are you talking about stratified oppression or are you talking about parallel oppression?
Right. I don't know what you mean by those things.
So stratification would mean that some have more precedence over others. Stratification is grouping things in a hierarchical standard. When I say parallel, I mean they're all equal in the sense that they're in oppressive. They're in an oppressive sphere.
No, I think there are
but they're all
levels,
parallel
and
to each other.
under this theory, under this doctrine, there are levels to this shit. So, for example,
Doctrine?
intersectionality. You
What
can literally
doctrine?
view
What's the
intersectionality as
doctrine?
like a road intersection, right?
Where's the
And in the
doctrine?
middle of that intersection, you can be hit by different avenues of oppression. Like, for example, you can be intersectional as a black person, right? Because you're oppressed by being a black person. But if you're a gay black person, then you're even more oppressed. You're even higher on the oppression hierarchy, right? And if you're, what if you're
Probably true.
a female homosexual black person, then you're even higher. So you can just
Probably.
keep playing this game, right? You just keep playing that fucking
Well,
game as
what do you
much as
mean
you
game? Guys,
How
the
is
game-
that a
that's probably
game?
true. That's probably true, right?
How is that a game if a person is getting oppressed for
The reason why I
specific
say this is a game,
hold
the
on,
reason why I
John,
said it's a
hold on,
game
just
because
one
this
second.
is
Let me
a
ask you
new
a
lens
question.
to
You can
view the
answer
world.
it, okay? Can I ask you a question? So how is that not true if a person is getting oppressed for different attributes of that person possesses?
It is true. It is true.
Okay, so what's your problem with it?
What about it then?
I think it's, pragmatically speaking, it's very, very bad psychologically speaking. It's very bad for our psyche, because what happens is later
What's
on
the
down the
bad part?
line, yes, later on down the line,
What's the bad part?
long story short, these critical race theorists who use identity politics, all this shit, they end up creating this boogeyman that they are plagued by. They end up creating this whiteness power monster thing, right? That's oppressing everyone, and they try to address it all the time. When Foucault talks about power, and these crazy postmodernists are talking about power,
John, you're going down the rabbit hole. You're not answering the question.
Answer the fucking question.
What's so bad about acknowledging that people get oppressed over different attributes that they possess?
That necessarily by itself is not bad to acknowledge.
Should we fix it?
Well,
something done about it?
No, I think we have to be very careful, because the solutions that we've been given are terrible. Like intersectionality is one of the solutions being laid forward. Like, for example, if there's like, these people are claiming that there's a subconscious bias running rampant that is basically racism, right? And like, for example, if you have
It is
a black
racism.
person and a white person, stop over talking so much, man. I can't get any points out really.
What about it?
Like, I'm trying to get these fucking points out efficiently, and I can't. You're making it so fucking hard. But like for example, the intersectionalist would say something like a black person and a white person. If you were going to hire somebody, if you're an employer, and you have to hire one of these people, if the black person and the white person have the exact same resume, the claim would be that we need some
I'm
kind
familiar.
of tiebreaker.
Yes,
right?
I'm familiar with that example. May I
Because
ask you
there's inherent
something?
bias against blacks, because
Okay,
the
may I ask
minorities
you
are
something?
being oppressed by that subconscious bias.
So tell me, if you have a value system that is based on merit, and you add to that value system something that is not merit-based, and you make a judgment based on that completely irrelevant matrix, is that correct or incorrect treatment of those candidates?
That's a dumb question, incoherent question.
Okay, I'll try to formulate it better.
Yeah,
so,
I know.
So you have two different matrix, right? Which is job-related matrix, which is merit-based, right? So how good a person is, let's say IT, right? You're hiring IT person. And you have a different matrix, is their name, so their racial description. Tell me, would it matter in hiring a person their racial description versus their IT prowess?
I would say their racial description.
So you would say that person is justified by hiring a person that is a specific race over their IT experience.
Yeah, I think some of these intersectionalists, this is what they advocate for. Me personally, I think that the more qualified person should get the job.
So when a person makes a decision based on the name of a candidate, they making the wrong decision. Do you agree with that?
No, I don't know what you mean by they're making the wrong decision, because it could, like I said, if what if these people have identical resumes, but one of the names seems more appealing to the person?
Exactly.
They
don't use the
I'm
appropriate
not done
matrix.
talking. Stop over talking. Just
Okay,
Jesus
sure.
Christ, come on, man.
Just
I try to
contradicted
wait
yourself, by
for
the
you
way,
to finish,
JonJon.
right? But I mean, just go ahead. I forgot what I was going to say anyway. But I wait for you to finish. You do the same.
No, well, I was asking if a person that is using a matrix that is absolutely irrelevant to the job description and making decision based on that matrix, is that an appropriate?
I think
let's
I,
put it
I
this
remember
way.
what I wanted
Is
to
it
tell
an
you now.
appropriate
Listen, I
decision?
remember. Listen, the issue is if we have two resumes that are identical, and one name seems more appealing, like let's say Shaquanda wasn't very appealing and Sarah was more appealing. Now, if I pick Sarah, I'm afraid that a lot of people, maybe even yourself, are going to claim that that's actually racist. That's actually the subconscious bias these people are getting at. This is just fucking racism, right? But I'm not sure I'm convinced that's the case. I'm not sure that simply having a preference over a fucking name means you're racist. And in fact,
Oh
I'm
man, I
aware
want to
that
tackle this so
research
bad.
have engaged in concept
Go
revision
ahead.
of what it means to be racist.
JonJon, you wouldn't be making the claim that the study that had black names versus white names was a result not of any racial bias, but just because people are just purely biased on weird sounding names. You're not saying that, are you?
No, I think that this can be construed, and I think this can be interpreted as racism.
All right,
That
let me
this
put it another way.
subconscious
Let me put it
bias.
another way.
But just to
Let
be
me put it
clear,
another way.
Seth, just to be clear,
Hold on, let me put
this
it
is
another
what
way. I didn't
when
actually.
I say something
Let
like
me
these
just
people are
clarify my
claiming
question real quick.
subconscious bias is
Let me look,
tantamount to
John.
racism.
Let me just clarify my question real quick. I'll just change it to get to my point. Okay. Let's say I showed you that in some Fortune 500 company, I had a list of 500 resumes, 250 of them. Fuck it.
Seth, just stop. I agreed with you. I grant you it.
I
see
don't.
your
I
point.
didn't. Actually, I didn't hear you grant me anything, but okay.
Listen, I grant you the point that this subconscious bias towards picking the names, it is racist.
Okay. All right. Good. Great. Just wanted to check.
But I just want to try to understand that it's kind of wrong for me to grant you that, but the reason why I grant you that is because I completely understand the reasoning. I understand the new definition of racism here.
Okay,
I just
okay.
want to
So
be
that's
transparent.
where actually I was
I just want to
leading
be
to.
very,
Sorry.
very transparent here that we are using
How?
a concept revised
Okay, hold
version
on.
of racist and
No,
Gotcha,
it is
racism.
gotcha.
not.
That
This
was
this
my
is not the
challenge.
classical sense.
That's why I sort of where I was leading. How is it a new revised version of racism when a decision is made based on the racist subconscious decision? It's still racist, right? Conscious or subconscious, a racist decision is a racist decision. Do you agree?
I think that it's a little racist.
What is racist?
The idea that, well, we have certain preferences based off stereotypes, for example, like maybe we like the name
Racial
Sarah over the
stereotype?
name
Yeah.
Shaquanda, right?
Yeah, that's wrong.
For certain reasons.
I'd be really curious how often, when you have employers weighing resumes, how often you get two people with exactly the same resume, with exactly the same qualifications.
Probably almost never.
What do you? I'm not sure what that's.
But here's what's
Well,
what's
it's
striking,
because
right?
like
Is that the
again, it's not meant to
intersectionalists
like.
offered
Hang
the
on, John.
solution.
John. I want to respond to what Seth asked me, and then you can do whatever you want. Seth, the reason I brought it up is because like it seems like it would be a proportionally small case that would ever happen. Now, it doesn't take away the merit of what the points that you guys made. In fact, I'm in agreement with you.
What would be I'm confused.
Oh, okay, sure. The reason I raised the resume question is because when you're weighing resumes, or so to give you a parallel example that I can actually give you a first-person perspective on, when I was still in the military and I had to weigh packages for people for who was going to be put up for awards, I would get a full spread of different like things people accomplished, and none of them were ever identical. Some had more influence.
Yeah,
in
what
one
does
area.
that have to do with? I mean, yeah, I get that. So resumes aren't going to be identical. What point are you making? I'm confused.
Oh, the point I was making is that I don't necessarily care for the resume example typically because it's not realistic. I mean, it makes a point.
It's very
just not
realistic. So they didn't send. So they did, the sample size was pretty large. They didn't send a like the same resume to the same broker. They sent it to different brokers. You send
Okay.
one
Wait,
resume
hang
with
on,
one
hang
name.
on.
Yeah.
No. I know where you're getting at this. Sorry, I wasn't disagreeing with the study. That I apologize if it came across that way. I was not disagreeing with the study.
Okay, I'm still confused about what the issue is. I'm not figuring it out.
No, it's okay. I think it became a moot point. I think it was a lesser point, and I was just pointing out a statistic potentially. But again,
He's
don't worry
saying
about
that
it.
he doesn't think that a situation like that is like applicable to the real world or something because he doesn't think that identical resumes are a frequent enough occurrence that it matters.
Right, and I don't think that subtracts from like the name bias. I think that's definitely a thing that happens. I just don't think identical resumes, like he said, happen in the real world that often.
Well, that's why they did a controlled study. That's why the
Wait,
resumes
what?
were. Well,
Right. This is why I wasn't disagreeing with
Well,
the.
I'm going to clarify. Controlled in a way that they were sending the same resumes. They were just changing the names, as far as I know.
Are we even going anywhere with this?
Like multiple of these. It's not like there's just one
my
study
point-
like this. There's a lot of them.
My point was conscious or subconscious racism is still racism. So there's no redefinition of racism.
Right.
Right, and I just want to clarify one last time. I was not subtracting from the point of the results of the study or anything like that. I feel like the point that I brought
Listen.
up, though, it made sense to me statistically. I don't think it adds to the conversation, so we can just drop
Nope. Nope.
I think
Listen,
my
I
favorite
just want
part
to
about
point
the
out that I run into this problem all the time, where when I try to talk about critical race theory and a lot of these issues, people really don't understand if I'm agreeing with it or if I'm disagreeing with it. And I think this would be a good time to point out that one of the obstacles and hurdles I'm having to deal with, and a lot of us are having to deal with, is the idea that there's a lot of truth here. A lot of this stuff actually makes sense. We can agree on a lot of it, but then there's that stuff that we don't like, and almost none of us will agree with. And I think it's all tied in together, right? So, for example, we can all agree that the subconscious bias seems wrong, right? So the subconscious prejudice, in other words, right? But later on down the line, make no mistake, these critical race theorists are saying much, much more than just that. And I think it's important to understand the overarching picture of what they're saying, because little bits and pieces of it will indeed make a lot of sense.
Who are these critical race
I
theorists,
think
by the way?
I can give you an example. Hold on, I can give you an example, right? Like
I've
these
been
same
waiting to
people
say
saying this shit about
Who are
subconscious
these
You
bias
actually
are the same
interrupted me
people
saying
claiming.
this before, John.
Okay.
I was trying to say this before John went on a fucking tirade, but my favorite thing about the race name study is like as soon as like shortly after the more recent race study on names on resumes, some conservative think tank tried to like debunk it by coming up with a similar resume test, except they used
The last
they
names?
used historically white sounding black names like Jackson and Washington. It was so fucking transparent.
Yeah. People don't think of someone as white when their last name is Jackson, like Andrew Jackson, versus Tyrone.
Yeah, or Washington, or some other or Brown.
Dubois.
You ever heard of Alan Jackson? Alan Jackson, one of the most popular country music singers, totally white.
He's about as white as they come.
Really, what? Blonde and blue-eyed and white.
Dude settled for a grape snow cone. It doesn't get more white than that.
Very.
What's the matter with a grape snow cone?
I wasn't implying there was a problem with
Well, you're getting better, man.
it. Gus, I love snow cones. Okay, let me just be clear on that.
I think we're done here.
Snow cones are garbage.
I mean, the remaining cone when I'm done eating it is garbage. You're correct, technically.
Nope, that's not true.
Just
see, the thing about JJ is if he's sleeping and you go over and you poke him, he'll wake up going, I disagree.
Or he'll just shout at you for no reason.
JJ, I think you and I need to go get a snow cone, man.
Hagar didn't understand my joke. That's all right.
Definitely
I still love
reason.
It was probably my tism.
Oh, JJ, I don't think you were here. The other day, Gus was here. Whoops, sorry. The other day, Gus was here, and the conversation organically changed to why would anybody go to Canada? And I was so happy.
See, this is why you never obtain a wild Seth.
Wait,
Because
wait,
a wild
hold on.
Seth will get bored and sooner or later start biting at you.
Wait, hold on.
It's bored.
Is it the case that Gus just so happens to every conversation he's in just involve Canada in it?
No, not really. It's more
Yes,
likely
if
that
I
every
have anything to say
conversation
about
Seth is in. It's more likely that every conversation Seth is in that involves me, he involves Canada.
Oh my God, JonJon left. Oh, hi.
That's too bad.
See, you said it and you jinxed it.
Mm-hmm.
Real guys.
I cut out really bad.
If only you'd cut out completely.
Look, I'm upset with I thought I had a crew going together to like go to VR chat, and then it all broke up. So I expect to see you guys on Tuesday and play
Why
murder.
would anybody
and I'll
want to
get
go to
drunk.
VR chat?
Oh, I want to play. I want to play too.
Remind me.
Am
All
I
right, JJ.
invited?
Yes, of course you're invited. You and Snugs and Kat and Ix and Stargate and whoever else wants to go. Preferably people have VR, but even if you don't.
As soon as I get the equipment, I'm down.
We made
You
our
can
own
just-
click.
You can play on desktop.
I know you can, and I've tried. It's just,
I
man,
do.
it's not the same.
It
It
makes
is
you feel like
insane.
you're missing out a
Yeah.
lot.
'Cause, yeah, I feel like I'm basically getting the Walmart version of it when I play without it. So yeah, no.
You can't bend over or anything when you're in the desktop. I mean, what?
Exactly, and that really is the main focus for me. If I can't bend over in VR, then I really don't see the point.
You can't
Yeah,
bend
I-
over. I don't think you can bend over in VR. You have to have like full body tracking, I think.
I don't think I want to bend over anywhere near Seth, quite frankly.
You also can do other stuff.
Hey, Seth.
Actually, it's okay. You can see what my hands are doing the entire time because I'm holding
I'm
control.
not worried about your hands, buddy.
I'm worried about if JJ has clean hands.
What's up, JonJon?
I was gonna bring one last thing up before I go, but I want to ask a random question. How expensive is your PC rig at the moment?
I'd have to piece it together. I probably spent like $1,200 on it.
Only 200?
1,200.
Oh, 1,200?
Yeah.
Yeah.
1,200. 12 with a 12.
Right.
Yay.
Yeah, but
Hey, Jo-
anyway, so the one last thing I want to say about all this shit before I go is that, I hear you guys dabbling with these ideologies, this critical race theory stuff,
No, we
identity
aren't.
politics stuff,
No, we aren't.
or intersectionality, whatever it is.
Mhm.
I hear, like, when we're all on the same page in terms of acknowledging the subconscious prejudice or the subconscious
yeah.
bias is pretty much tantamount to racism, it seems to me like we can all agree on that stuff. But make no mistake, I think this is emerging from the critical race theory and
No,
intersectionality.
it's not.
So basically what I'm saying is that a lot of these people, a lot of what they're going to say, a lot of it's going to seem to make sense, but a lot of it doesn't. I just wanted to show you guys, like, for example, the same people acknowledging this shit are going to be the same people saying that when we look at history, the emergence of the things we see are actually tools of oppression, like science,
No.
reason itself. These are all
No one
creations
believes
of
that.
white people.
Literally, no one believes that.
What do you think the PDF was that I sent Big Chum was about? It was literally about that. It was literally about these rather intelligent people trying to argue that
Do you not think it was just an opinion piece? Do you not think that was just an opinion piece?
Is that these
Do you not
people,
think it was just an
I just
opinion
want to
piece?
critique these people.
Can
I don't
now
want to be
answer
told
my
these people
question.
don't exist.
Answer my
for fuck's sake.
question. Answer my question. Do you not think it was an opinion piece?
I don't want to talk to you. I want to talk to Seth.
What a fucking coward! You can't even answer my question.
Yeah, go back to trying to convince these people you're an expert in postmodernism.
I'd like you to
I
send that
am
to me,
not an
John.
expert, you moron.
I would like for you to send me that PDF, John, but it's been my experience that whenever reactionaries send me some kind of data showing that SJWs have really went off the rails this time, almost
Have you seen?
without
Have you seen the
fail. Let me
sociologist?
finish. Almost without fail, what the reactionaries claiming is being said by these leftist Marxists or whatever is false, and usually they're actually saying the opposite of what's claiming they're saying. So I mean, I'd like to see the PDF. I'm not really expecting it to turn out exactly like you think it has, especially because Chum has read it and I really trust Chum's reasoning, and he doesn't seem to think it says what you said it says, and you haven't.
That, and you also couldn't answer my question.
You're also wrong a lot.
Hey, JonJon, I gotta ask you something before you leave,
The person
though.
who's failed to acknowledge what's seeped into his own field of study. Congratulations.
What the
JonJon, I've
Well,
gotta ask you something before you
what are you
leave.
talking about?
Are you secretly Matt Yester?
No.
You're
not thinking rationally.
Desperately holding on to pragmatism and evolutionary theory, for example. These idiots are trying to do away with it.
Don't insult Matt Yester like that.
Wait, JonJon, did you just call me like an expert, by the way? I never
I'm
claimed I
trying
was
to
an
fucking. I'm trying to. I'm on my iPad. I'm on my phone talking, but I'm on my iPad clicking on Seth's name, trying to fucking work this. I'm trying to send this PDF.
You got it, JonJon.
Actually, can
Get it,
someone give me? Can someone give me text chat privileges? I haven't had them in fucking. I can't remember the last time I was able to fucking tick some. But I'll just put it in main text. If you just someone gives me
JonJon might be fun in
text
VR chat.
privileges,
You wanna
I'll post a PDF for everyone.
He's probably just gonna move all over the place, not knowing where to
No,
go.
listen,
It's just
I'm
like
really. I want to post this to Seth, and then I want to get his opinion on it. I want to leave. I'm gonna go get a shower and relax, smoke weed, and play games. Shit. But
Because more weed will do you a lot of good.
can someone please give me text chat privileges so I can try to share this PDF? If not, I'll just try to see.
Oh,
So JonJon smokes weed,
JonJon,
gets himself in an intellectual frenzy.
Wait.
And then JonJon has to smoke more weed to get himself out of his intellectual.
Oh, I think I got it. Hold on.
I'm
Yeah, I was gonna say, JonJon, can you just PM him the link?
I'm trying right now. I think I got it. Hold on.
Also, like Gus, I'm convinced that the reason why conservatives in general or Republicans or whatever are against the legalization of marijuana is because of people like JonJon, because they're afraid that their children will end up this way.
All right, I get it. You're talking shit about weed and stoners. I get it. But Seth,
Actually, Hagar, I think it might be the opposite. I think what's really like holding back weed legalization are the weed advocates that overpromise the health benefits of weed. I mean, no one's gonna trust you when some fucking shaggy dude in a tie-dye t-shirt's telling him, yeah, man, weed cured my aunt's cancer.
I'm convinced also by people like JonJon, their existence is the reason why, I want my kid to be this way.
Yeah.
Also, as someone myself who smokes the devil's lettuce, I can assure you I'm not like JonJon.
The intellectual fucking the socio-intellectual axe was ground against pot long before hippie
I hope
shit.
to God that like I don't end up like JonJon. But like, don't you think it's also interesting how like JonJon doesn't think smoking weed is degenerate, even though Republicans ideologically oppose weed?
Hey, isn't it pretty clear that you keep attacking?
Oh, I can attack you all I want because you're fucking annoying.
Yeah, but aren't you annoying too?
Only dumb people call me annoying.
Yeah, shut the fuck up and sit down. Go make me a sandwich, bitch.
Oh
No, I'm just
my
kidding.
God,
I'm just
she
kidding.
made
It's a
you a
joke.
sandwich.
I'm not making you shit,
Listen,
motherfucker.
Seth, are these links working, Seth?
Get the fuck off your chair and make your own damn sandwich.
Here
Fucking
we
asshole.
go. Here we go. Here we go.
Hey, Seth, is this shit working or is this just like not working? Like, is this shit I'm sending you?
I'm not even looking. I'm out of Discord. I'm in another window. Hold on.
He's playing that one porn VR game.
If it doesn't go through, I'll send it.
Why aren't you playing it?
Because I'm at work.
Because he's playing at work.
All right, I got it. I can't read through it right now, JonJon, but I plan on it. I'm working on it.
All right, so you can definitely read it when you get a chance, though. It's sent?
Yeah, it's sent.
All right, perfect. All right, hell yeah. All right, so, yeah, these people are basically, what that PDF is going to show you is that this stuff has reached, this critical race theory bullshit has reached its way into academia. It's like we have like corrupt scholarship, for example.
How many times have you said this?
Take a shot each time he says critical race theory. Holy
Yeah,
shit,
so
you're
for
gonna be
example,
like
this PDF,
on
I
the
sent it to Joe
podcast with-
Sunseed already, and Joe Sunseed completely ignored it. He didn't even fucking like write me back. That's his very thing you need to know, bro.
That's a bad.
You think he ignored it off the bat? You don't think he's like reading it at the time when you're like,
It's
you
a
know,
banned
talking about it?
PDF.
Yeah,
Joe banned it from his
But
wallet.
people like Joe don't
I
really
ignored
want
it.
to read it because Joe agrees with a lot of what they're gonna say, and he doesn't know how to reject them yet. He doesn't know how to say they're wrong yet. That's why I just said,
JonJon, do you think that any political ideology,
like a lot of us agree
John?
with these
Oh
people.
my God, shut up! Do you think that any political like leanings should be allowed in academia?
Yeah, I do, but I think it's a. I just want freedom of speech to be upheld for the most part, because I think that's the mechanism that
What
we
do you
have.
think? Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Did you-
Like the freedom of speech, the freedom of speech is the mechanism at which helps filter the dogmatism, or helps us combat the dogmatism. That's really what we're worried about.
What else?
Not true.
But in scientific setting,
true. You don't
not
know
all
fucking-
ideas
Listen,
agree.
John, no, stop. John, hold on.
sure
Sanseed's trying to ask John a question. Hold on.
Let Joe talk.
Yeah, just like what else do you think is like a like? Obviously, you think there's inequality, and if academia could do something to stop that, don't you think academia? I mean, it seems reasonable to think that it should be a part of academia, because inequality clearly has an effect on
Whenever I
education.
hear you say that, Joe, to be honest with you, I get anxiety. It freaks me out to hear you
You're
utter
being
that
such a
language,
fucking
because I hear the
snowflake.
postmodernist
Wait,
language, right?
just
Like, for example, the
you could just
postmodernists, what
reinterpret
they
it.
Can you just
concluded
answer
was
the
that
question?
power is the only real thing, so they
postmodernist
must
so loosely?
exercise power accordingly. So the
Never mind.
academics, right? So what this meant to the academics was that if power was the only real thing, their goal was to exercise their power as an academic. And this is
That's
why
not
we
true.
got trained activists, right? This is
That's
why there
not true.
exists such a thing as trained neo-Marxists.
That's not true.
Stop ignoring all this stuff, people.
Is that
Because
is that a
not
response
true.
to? Wait, is that a response to the word inequality? When he said that there's inequality and that academia should like if they recognize it through their studies that they should point it out. Is that because you could just you can just
Listen,
reinterpret it into the word
how do you not
hierarchy,
fucking understand
and
what
then it
I'm
would be
saying,
fine,
right?
right?
How do you not understand what I'm fucking saying? I'm saying
Hey,
that
John,
when he
John.
says that, oh, there's inequality, shouldn't we combat it with academia? How is that any different? Or listen, I'm telling you,
I
postmodernists,
think
they do the
that
same thing, right?
acknowledge.
They think that they have to use their power
Knowledge is not.
accordingly, and that means training activists to combat their current social and political economical position. So, for example,
The academics aren't
postmodernists concluded that we were in a ruined
Thanks.
state, and that these ideologues growing up, that they would find themselves in a ruined state. So the academics, they told themselves that their mission was to prepare these young ideologues to be able to combat the inequalities of their current social economical positions and time.
I'm not certain you have a working definition of the critical race theory, honestly.
That sounds like an activist, not an academic.
Postmodernism?
When you're talking about people that want to train young people to
No, I'm talking about academics. Yes, postmodern academics.
yeah,
What the
but
fuck?
it doesn't sound like you're talking about academics. Like if someone's just reporting the data, and then like let's say they have like policy recommendations or whatever, the policy recommendations aren't the same thing as organizing, marching, petitioning, boycotting, all the things that activists do. It sounds like I don't know, you might be
It does. Look at the neo-Marxists claiming to run the Black Lives Matter movement. What do you
What
think
are
they're
you
doing?
talking? Stop saying
They're protesting,
neo-Marxist for the
marching, and they're
love of God.
self-proclaimed
But
activists.
I don't even know what a, I
the
don't even
people
know what
that
a
are running
Marxist
it though,
is.
the people that are running it though, they're not the academics that are publishing, that are putting out the data.
Exactly.
So I'm
many.
I'm pointing out that the way that you're talking about those two things, you're saying that they fall under the same word, but when I think about it, it doesn't seem like they have the same term. It seems like there's two different things there.
He's equivocating.
Well, I mean, if he just wants to like combine them, it's fine. But like, I'm just saying when I think of it, when I think of what an academic is, and then when I think of what an activist is, sounds like you're subsuming one with the other.
Well, you may be. Listen, I don't necessarily think that's fair.
Oh, don't be.
Because my goal here was to share with you something that I learned studying postmodernism. It's
You
this. It's that
studied
these
it,
postmodernists,
obviously.
these postmodernists were acknowledging that they had reached, and I'm glad that I'm talking to you about this because you know a little bit about postmodernism. You may know that this is true. You may know enough to know this, but the idea is that these postmodernists were acknowledging that they had reached some kind of end state, that the age of faith had failed us, and the age of reason had also failed us. So they tried to figure out where to go from there, and we've seen certain subsets of postmodernists, like post-structuralists and people like that. We've seen actual claims emerging, like there is no objective reference to the meaning of language. And long story short, we got this narrative that power is the only real thing. So these academics, these postmodernists who had power, who and keep in mind that's their worldview. This critical race theory bullshit became a lens to which to view the world. They viewed everything in terms of power oppression and power struggle.
This is
The oppressor, the
speculation.
oppressee. So
This is speculation.
these postmodernists, when they became academics, keep in mind that they were rejecting logic and reason. So they're not going to teach their kids about all that stuff, right? About these white logic or anything. So this was the strategy. This was the strategy, right? Yeah, that PDF that I just sent will clear that up, no problem. But the strategy that these people adopted is a little bit crazy.
Why do you keep
if
saying
you think
strategy?
about it, because these people were acknowledging that they had reached an end state and they tried to figure out where to go from here. What were we going to do?
Why
So
are
it
you
was the
assuming
birth
they
of
have
some
a
kind of strategy.
motivation?
So, for example, the strategy was something like, if power is the only real thing, and I hold a position of power, then I have a duty to exercise my power accordingly. And what that
That's not what
meant was
postmodernists believe.
training third or fourth generation postmodern ideologues and giving them the tools
This is
necessary
speculation.
to reject the socio-economical positions they find themselves in. In other words, they're going to find themselves in a ruined state. They're going to be oppressed by capitalism most likely, and they need the tools to be able to fight for that revolution. I really, really wish I was wrong. I really wish you guys
You
were
are
right.
wrong.
I'm just a fucking idiot, but I'm
You
not.
are an
I'm
idiot.
telling
That's
you,
actually the
I'm
only
not
correct
getting
thing
my
you've said.
information from morons. And to be clear, Hagar, you have made a complete fool of yourself.
How have I made a fool of myself?
I've got you to contradict yourself in a little bit of time I engage.
What have I
Pretty
contradicted
serious,
myself on?
and you keep asking like fucking 50 questions for you. Like this, the
I keep
moment you ask
asking
a question,
questions
by the
because you
time
can't,
I
like,
finish
you keep
answering, you're already
deflecting, you
asking
keep
more
dodging, you
questions.
can't answer a fucking question I say.
So big chum time. I hope you got that. Like I hope you understand, chum, that in some sense we are dealing with like fourth generation postmodernists. Like there was literally academic postmodernists who trained an entire generation of thinkers.
It's not even their final form yet.
Wait, I think we're on fourth wave feminism, not fourth wave. I don't even know if there's like a fourth wave postmodernism or if they even
There's
talk about it.
fourth wave feminism?
Well, there is. Think about it. From
Yeah.
what I've learned, like the first wave of postmodernism was
What's
really,
the
really
first wave?
sad. Like the first wave
I'd
of,
have to
like,
look
for
it up.
example, you go back in time and you look at the
Oh
first
my fucking
postmodernists and you
god.
analyze their writings. It echoed nihilism and meaninglessness, right? So they were evolving. Postmodernism evolved a little bit. So for example,
Evolve?
the post-structuralists and structuralists emerged out of the postmodern crowd. And what this is the post-structuralists and structuralists were literally postmodernists trying to make their
No.
philosophy
No.
have some kind of utility, right?
Just because something comes out of a specific philosophy
And make
doesn't
no
mean that they
mistake,
are
the
the
power
exact
is the only
philosophy.
real thing was bolstered by the post-structuralist conclusion with Foucault and things like
You
that. Like,
do
for example, with
realize
post-structuralism, they were using linguistic arguments to conclude that there was no objective reference to the meaning of language, that we actually impose meaning to language. This fueled relativistic
JonJon.
thinking.
JonJon. Oh my god, I swear to god. Just because something comes from something doesn't mean it is the exact same thing. Both empiricism and rationalism came from the Enlightenment. That doesn't mean that they're both the same fucking thing.
They're the same thing.
Empiricism and rationalism?
Yep.
Okay then.
Go on, JJ, said no one.
So I think people like Joe Sunseed, I think their morals and ethics are in the right place. I honestly think that
Morals
they do
and
experience
ethics?
types of moral panics. Like when it comes to them talking about IQ and
You like
race
moral error
realism.
theory, JonJon?
Like these people,
You know what error theory
they're
is,
in the right
JonJon?
place. Like for example, Joe Sunseed. If someone comes in here talking about race realism, Joe Sunseed's immediately going to explain to everybody that this isn't a sound scientific theory, and he's going to dismiss it. And he's going to do so based off moral concerns.
No, I'm not. What are you talking
Well,
about?
that's the scientific consensus, anyways.
That is the scientific consensus.
Also,
But scientific
like, it's
consensus
on
is
morals.
meaningless
Oh my
considering
God.
science changes all the
dishonest.
time. We change our minds about science all the time, guys.
Yeah, but that's still not a moral.
So why would you appeal
Yeah, I mean,
to the
that's not a moral argument. That's not a moral argument, though, JonJon. I like pride myself in not just moralizing against shit. I actually provide argument.
No. Listen, I think you're right. I think you are correct that race realism, for example, is not a sound scientific theory, or like IQ, for example, isn't a sound science, right? But the problem is that you people throw the baby out with the bathwater. There's a lot of truth to be had, and you guys
No.
won't accept any of it because of your moral panic. Because
No, there
you're
is no
convinced that
moral
people would be racist with this information, right? You're terrified.
Whenever
this gets so
JonJon
out of
uses
hand
idioms,
that
I
people are calling
can't
Sam Harris
concentrate.
racist now. People are calling Sam Harris a race realist and that he's racist now.
Stop, can you actually have a conversation instead of preaching your fucking feelings
Well,
for
hold on.
once?
Joe, how do you feel about that? Are you going to jump on the bandwagon and just start saying that Sam Harris is racist?
Huh?
Oh, but I think
Probably.
Who's called him racist? What are you talking about?
guess
Who are
we'll
you
answer
talking
later.
about?
People are accusing Sam Harris of a
Who are these
Big
people?
Chum Time just explained why he thinks
people
he was
dislike that
racist
he.
because of this
People,
misuse
I
of
think,
statistics. But
JonJon. People, I think, are just dislike that he gave a platform to someone in a overly uncritical manner,
Yeah, maybe he's racist, JonJon.
or that. Gosh.
Don't know yet, but the thing is with you, JonJon, is you make blanket
let me ask
statements.
you a
and you
question, Joe.
keep, grouping
I'm gonna
people.
assume, Joe. I'm gonna assume
Why
you
are you
can't answer this
overtalking me?
question honestly, right? And I'm gonna
Why are
ask
you
this
overtalking
question
me?
as a means to
ignoring him.
expose you. Okay? I just want to warn you ahead of time. So I want to be very transparent with my goals here. I'm gonna try to ask a question to Joe and see if I can expose him a little bit on his position here. So for example, Joe, if we take 100 people or 200 people actually, right? And 100 of these people have 120 IQ, and the other 100 people have a 70 level IQ, right? And let's say that we see much more of the 120 IQ people getting college degrees, for example. Now, I think that people like you have a hard time acknowledging things like this. So, for example, I would say that this actually isn't an accident. I'm not going to be super skeptical. I'm not going to say, well, it isn't sound. I'm going to dismiss it all, throw the baby out with the bathwater. I'm going to be honest, and I'm going to say, listen, I think that the higher IQ is a pretty good predictor for economic success, or in this situation, the success of getting a degree.
So,
Which
JonJon,
translates into economic success, right? But the point is that how would you approach that, Joe? Are you going to acknowledge that in
I
some
have an
sense
answer.
IQ is meaningful here?
I have an answer. You're missing the point of the critique. The critique isn't that there are people who have higher IQ versus people who have lower IQ, and that there's a correlation between success and not being successful with those IQ levels. The critique is in the explanation. My critique is that the explanation isn't merely that this is just some sort of genetic, determinism. That you can appeal to socioeconomic status. You can appeal
Who
to.
believes that it's merely genetics, 100% genetics?
No,
Who
it's
believes
not
that?
merely. It's that the better explanation isn't going to be an appeal to genetics.
Well, who gets to decide what a better explanation is? What criteria? Is it just the soundness of it?
There's a
If
lot
it's
of
not
different.
sound, you
Well,
dismiss it?
it seems reasonable to dismiss things that are unsound, JonJon.
False. False. That's fucking absurd, Joe.
John,
That's
I think that the
absolutely
Earth is
fucking
flat.
absurd.
John,
This is
John,
exactly
John, John,
why you can't really
I can't
acknowledge
finish
what these
the
people
conversation.
like.
John, John.
Like, what's his name? The Murray guy. The Murray guy. Like, make
Charles
no mistake.
Murray.
Yeah, Charles Murray. Like Charles Murray, he's terrified of people like you guys because he thinks that we're gonna end up leaving lower IQ people behind. In other words, people like if we can't get a
Not
grasp
making
on this IQ
assumptions.
stuff, then who's to say a lot of idiots are going to expect lower IQ people to compete with higher IQ people?
Stop making
Like for
assumptions.
example, if it's mandatory, if it's expected of you to get a college degree to be
Stop
economically viable, and you need at least 115 IQ to get a college degree. Well, what about all the lower IQ people who can't get college degrees? Are we just going to leave those people behind and not care about those people? Because it seems like people like Joe, the way they argue against IQ, it's very, very hard for them to acknowledge that differences in cognitive abilities are important. They want to dismiss it all and try to avoid people being racist with this. Like I said, I don't want to dismiss these people. Like
I don't know where
Joe,
you're getting
his
any of
heart's in the
that
right
from.
place. Like Joe thinks that if he grants any type of truth here, right? Like there's
Why are you
anything
speaking
here.
for Joe?
I think you're misinterpreting anybody's criticism of this.
I've hit it right on the money. Joe is only worried about this not being a sound theory. And in virtue of it not being a sound theory, he will fight it as much as he can because he's also convinced that this is dangerous thinking. Like clearly, like for example, is it really that hard for you guys to understand that we have to kind of be careful with what we say about IQ and race, for example, because we don't want like racist people
should
to
be
use this
careful.
information the wrong way?
You should be careful about how you talk about most anything, JonJon.
Right, but this
Hold on, this is really
particularly
weird.
especially, right? Because
This is really
we can
weird.
get like
JonJon,
eugenics, or we don't want to get scientific racism or anything, right? Things like that.
I'm really confused. You're saying are you mocking us saying we have to be careful? Because I thought you were the person mocking the idea that one has to be careful about, say, the Jewish question because it might result in a Holocaust. Weren't you making fun of that a few years ago?
Not a parody. I think that was a parody with Sam Harris. I was like, the last time we talked about this, Jews died, or some shit.
Yeah, but that seems like you have the mentality that you should be able to talk about this regardless of the consequences. You're mocking the idea that people need to be careful about talking about the JQ, for example, because it might result in a Holocaust.
Well, really, what my goal is here is I see intelligent people not being able to come to the meaning of the minds. I see Joe's pretty reasonable, and I see, like I said, I'm trying to find the middle ground, and I think I understand what's happening. I think what's really happening is that people like Joe are picking up and zoning in on the idea that like the ideas around IQ or the ideas around race realism, that these are not sound. Key word here would be sound theories, scientific theories. And in virtue of them not being sound scientific theories, we can try to dismiss these theories and we could try to push back on these theories in virtue of these theories actually being potentially dangerous. We don't want these theories to get in the wrong hands. We don't want eugenics and scientific racism running awry or something like that. So, but unfortunately, there is some truth to these theories. Like there is some truth to the idea that there are differences amongst populations. Like for example, I've been entertaining the idea that maybe I subscribe to like some kind of race realism light. So that's just a fancy
race
way of
realism?
saying, like for example, a lot of times when we try to talk about race and IQ, a lot of there's not very many things to be said here that's not going to be put you in a position to be accused of being racist or a Nazi. So for example, even relatively, people you wouldn't think would get that claim. Like Sam Harris is even getting this claim that he's a racist. He's a race realist light racist,
What's
right?
race realism light? Is that like black people are dumb, but you feel sorry for saying it?
Race realism light is acknowledging that if everyone had an equal start, that who knows, maybe even black people would be at an advantage. We don't know, right? But we cannot ignore the fact that there are indeed differences amongst cognitive abilities at the moment, right? Like, in other words, race realism light, in my opinion, is acknowledging
under that definition,
acknowledging, like for example, we can.
I just want to point out real quick. Give me 2 seconds. I just want to point out that under that definition, Sonseed would be a race realist light.
Do what?
I said under that definition, Joe Sonseed would be race realist light.
So you think that Joe Sunseed accepts that blacks have lower IQs on average?
Yeah, right. You just said right now, right? The statistics show that black people in the United States have a lower than average IQ.
Yes, and he would acknowledge that. He'd acknowledge that right now.
That's a real statistic, I think. Yeah, unless I'm confused about something, that's a real.
I'd have to hear him acknowledge. I'm a little skeptical that he would, but yeah, that's my position, and I would be.
It's just his position that the best explanation for that is not genetics. The best explanation for that was probably going to be something more like socioeconomic,
environmental.
Yeah, environmental.
Yeah, but what do you? I'm
So,
familiar with
John, are you claiming that pigment, the skin
Hold on, I
pigment
want
has...
to let him finish his question.
I don't think this is going to end.
Oh, sorry. I was just wondering if, John, are you claiming that skin pigmentation influences your IQ? Is that what you're saying?
Not necessarily. No, I think
What question? What were you trying to ask me, JonJon?
I forgot.
You don't remember? Great.
Sorry, my bad.
Really, I was just trying to point out that this is another conundrum. This is another hurdle to try to get over in terms of coming to the meeting of the minds. This idea that what is it? Is it more environment or is it more genetics? A lot of people, just for charity, I don't know exactly why, but just to be a little fair here, they'll just say, well, it's 50-50, guy. It's 50-50. But to be honest with you, a lot of people are more convinced that it's more genetics, or a lot of people are convinced that it's more environment. I've seen really intelligent thinkers like
So
Stephen
what's
Pinker and say that
genetically
it's
different
clearly,
between a person with a
and
different
I'm a
skin
little
color?
confused. Listen, I'm not gonna lie. I've seen evolutionary biologists, psychologists, and philosophers say that they think it's more genetics in some situations. But clearly, I see these more SJW inclined individuals saying, well, no, it's more environment. And I think this is clearly because of the dangers of some of these ideologies. I think it's
John, what does
Well,
skin
John, do you want to talk about that?
pigment...
Actually, I want to talk about. So, you know why people think that it's environmental? I don't think it's more. I think it's probably more environmental. I don't think so because I'm really sensitive about the facts and I don't want black people to feel bad. I think it's environmental for the simple reason that there seems to be. I mean, even poor white people have a low IQ, right? People, everybody, it seems to be really strongly correlated with people's socioeconomic standards. That if they're poor, they have a low IQ, they don't pass high school. These things are associated with being poor, being of low socioeconomic status, not necessarily your race. When you look at the race,
yeah, but I think that's really
black people in this country are more likely to be poor. But I mean that makes sense, right? Because there's also not a lot of upward social mobility in this country. It's very difficult for somebody who's born into poverty to get a high school or even a college education.
Charles Murray, the people you attack, is trying to address.
I've never attacked Charles
He's saying
Murray.
that these blacks aren't
Let me
going to
finish.
be able to catch
That's well, that they can, as long as we gave them reparations or made sure they got into
affirmative
schools
action,
or
reparations. Exactly, you're getting into the SJW woke democratic.
That's not. Hold on. That's not just like SJW. And you're just putting a label on it, and so you can hand
You
wave it away.
literally
But
just
it's serious. Hold on. I'm going to finish this. I haven't got a
action.
chance to finish. I'm going to get a chance to finish this. I understand what you're saying, JonJon, but I'm going to get a chance to finish this. Okay. It is a fact that there are kids yours and my age, right, living in this country right now, whose grandparents lived under segregation, right? It's very unlikely that if you lived under segregation that you were going to get a good education, and which means your parents probably wouldn't get a good education and would remain poor, which means you would probably not get a good education and remain poor. The reason it seems to me that there's a disparity between IQ of black people and white people in the United States of America is because black people have been systemically oppressed, and it's become kind of difficult for them to get out of that, especially when we have systemic racism still kind of keeping them down. Do you think that that's a decent explanation of why for the IQ difference in this country or not?
I'm familiar with this. I think no, and the reason is because I was told by Jordan Peterson that I know you think he's an idiot, but he has.
Well, he
I think
is
he's
now.
smart.
I
think
want
he's
to hear it,
smart.
but it's just okay. I think it's funny how you started it.
I think that, well, Jordan Peterson pretty much explained to me that a lot of these people are going to tell you something like, you can take a poor individual,
that I
malnourished
cut out as
individual,
soon as
for
you started talking.
right. So what my response to you is this: is that I've been told, and the way I understand it, is that you're going to be told. People will tell you things like, you can take a really poor, malnourished, low IQ person and bring them into a rich environment and give them everything in terms of nutrition. And these people will have you believe that when they have kids and things like that, that you're going to see this huge leap in IQ.
I'm not
And
saying that though.
Jordan explained to
I'm
me
not
that
saying that
what
though.
actually happens is it's a very minuscule increase in IQ. It's not a
Look,
very meaningful
look.
increase.
This is a different. This
In
is
that a
not an
lot of
argument that I
people
made.
are actually
This isn't
confused.
an
In fact,
argument that I made.
believe it or not,
Can you
Seth, a
respond to
lot
what
of
I
people
asked
think
you?
that you can gain about a 20 level, like a ton.
Am I
Go from
audible?
level 80 to level 100.
Yeah, you.
JonJon, are you listening to me?
You can.
Yeah,
You
I
can,
just wanted to get what I was saying out. I think it's important.
I don't care about
This
any
is
of
a
that. Like,
straw man.
I don't know. I'm not making an argument that you can like increase someone's IQ. I don't know if that's true.
You can.
I'm saying
yeah.
what I'm saying is, I wouldn't be surprised, but that's not the argument I'm making. I'm just saying that there's some like I believe, unless somebody wants to correct me again, that there's a real statistic that on average, white people who are white in the United States have a higher IQ than people who are black in the United States. And there's different ways you can explain this, right, JonJon? You have taken the tact for some reason that it's genetic, right? And I'm saying that there's
No, I'm not even saying that. I'm not saying that it's merely genetic. That's unfair.
I didn't say it was merely. I
I've
didn't say
never
you said it
said
was
that.
merely genetic. I just said that you said it's genetic, not merely genetic.
No,
And put any
I feel like
qualifiers on it.
you're trying to claim that I think it's 60% genetics.
I
Like you're just
made
saying,
no
you're just
such
saying
claim.
I think it's mostly genetics.
And I'm just saying, like all I'm saying is that there seems to be. I mean, I know from personal experience and from data. There's very very strong data saying that if you're poor, you're going to test worse on an IQ. Right? You're going to have a lower education. You're going to make less money. Okay, and
Yeah, but that
black
makes
people
sense.
tend to be
We
poor in
can
this
understand
country. They tend to be poor in this country because number one, there's low social mobility, and their ancestors, not even their grandparents or even parents, right, were not just like systematically oppressed, not like because of some systemic like bias in people's heads and practice in hiring people, but there was like legal segregation on the books when like a black person your age, his grandparents were still alive and working.
Yeah, listen,
Right?
Seth.
There
This
was
is
actual legal
depressing, man.
segregation.
Hold on,
So yeah, it might be a
I just
little
wanna grant
difficult.
what you're
I'm just saying.
I just
I'm
want to
just
grant
saying
it
that
to you. I can grant it to you right now.
Great. So okay. So well, if you're going to grant it to me, then what I'm getting at, what you're granting me, it seems like, is that the best explanation for this IQ disparity isn't genetics; it's socioeconomic.
Well, actually, I think you're right. I think I'm just thinking about it. For example, like just to try to clarify my agreements with you, I do agree with you. I am convinced by the rhetoric that blacks have had a super unfair start, and this super unlucky and unfair start has led to their inequality in terms of cognitive abilities. Like it's led to them not being able to catch up to us, for example. And this is why the first thing I said as a race realist light person is that I believe that if everyone had a fair start, maybe even blacks would be smarter than whites for all I know. If we had a fair start, I'm open to the possibility that blacks would have been better in terms of cognitive ability. I just don't know. But the idea that it may be more genetics, like clearly it's environmental in terms of you got to be able to eat. You can't be super malnourished your whole life and expect to be healthy and whatnot. Like clearly this is just trivial, right? You're gonna have to have people who are able to fucking eat and function to be able to function properly mentally. But like I said, I think I just want to point to the thing I told to Big Chum Time, which is that I'm just not convinced that you can raise people's IQ some substantial amount.
I'll send you the study right now. They raised people's IQ an average of 1 to 2 standard deviations increase just on like test taking training basically for like an hour.
Yeah, but that's that's not like Jordan Peterson warned me about that as well. He said literally these people were trained. He said Jordan Peterson said that this is very, very misleading because these people are literally trained to take the IQ test, and it's no surprise they score really high.
Right. So if you can train, but then if you can train somebody to take the IQ test, then all that means is that the IQ test isn't a measure of intelligence; it's just a measure of test taking. Right.
Well, I think that could be evidence for that, but I don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater still. Like for example, Big Chum, we can still acknowledge that higher IQ, like IQ is the best predictor for economic success, for example. Why would you want to throw that
What's
away,
the
Big
bait?
Chum? Why would you want to not be able to acknowledge
Well,
something like that?
yeah, there is a correlation. Like if you're good at taking tests, if you score highly at university, there's a correlation with getting into a good college, and there's a correlation with getting a good job with getting into a good college.
Right, but listen, you're basically what you're trying to do, Big Chum Time, is dismiss IQ as being pretty much meaningless. But I know deep down this is not what you truly believe.
There's
Like
a,
honestly, you'll see the like.
I'm just saying
I
like
think
for the bell
I
curve
think
for
you'll be
like
willing
the
to accept the differences in IQ of like, let's say, dramatic difference. Let's say you have a 70 IQ level person next to a 150 IQ level person. I think you, Big Chum, you're gonna notice the dramatic differences in cognitive ability. But I just don't. I'm just so confused because it's almost like you keep pushing back on that. It's almost like you can't acknowledge any of that shit because you're trying to say IQ is meaningless. But but then again, you'll probably agree with certain things that contradicts that, right? That
wait,
it's
I'm
not just
not.
meaningless.
I just want to make sure, not saying that it's meaningless, like that there's no function or there's no like use for it, but that not actually a measure of intelligence.
Well, I mean, if you're gonna, since you're being that transparent, I'm not sure even have the ability to argue against that. I mean, that's gonna be a tough one.
Well, I've said that the whole time. Every like even last time when I said that, I said that it's not a measure of intelligence, it's a measure of test taking, and that there is some relation to being able to like take a test and stuff, but like the racial IQ stuff like that's in the bell curve that Charles Murray had that we were talking about, who Sam Harris talked with, he the way he did his methodology is for some of the tests, he would take an area that's like under apartheid in South Africa. Well, apartheid is basically just where there's like brutal subjugation and rule by like a dominating majority. And he compared apartheid South Africa to a well-off suburban like single family area in Great Britain. And there's no and so that's an issue right there to say that apartheid South Africa represents the entire black race. But the other issue is also that like when he's picking the samples, he's skewing it. But
Well, when you
I
say
don't
the
know.
black race, I feel like there could be a lot of confusion here, Big Chum. Maybe you and Sam aren't coming to the meeting of the minds simply because y'all don't even agree on what a black person is. Like, for example, maybe like even black people do this shit. They argue amongst themselves whether or not they
I'm not.
identify as an African or not.
I'm not even
Like a
talking
lot of
about
people don't
that.
even identify with.
I'm just
No, I'm
talking
saying, but
about
like
like a
you're saying
opportunity
that
to
you
have
don't believe that the example he gave represents the black community, but the example he gave seems to be like if you're speaking strictly genetically speaking, they're the closest to they're actually closer. The example he gave, the population he gave, seems to be more closer to Africans than even American, like Black Americans, for example, right? Like even Black Americans, this is why I said they argue amongst themselves whether or not they're really Africans or whether or not they identify
Yeah,
with
but
their homeland Africans.
Stop speaking.
the question
So
isn't
in other
about that
words, these
though.
people came from somewhere, Big Chum,
Yeah, but
and it seems like Sam is going straight to the source.
the issue isn't about that though. The issue is um the group selection, and some of the some of the questions on the test are completely like relative to like the English culture or like English day to day type stuff.
Was it exactly the same test that was administered?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's the same test, but the issue is that the
Okay,
questions on the test
that's a
are.
problem right there, because when you ask a person about croquet, they never played croquet, don't know what the sport.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
is, then you have a skewed type of answer. So
But
that's not
you
test.
you do want the tests to be similar enough that they're comparable, but so like if there's a different test, there's an issue there too, because unless the examples are like more universal or whatever, then but yeah.
And then it projects those tests on the American reality. So it takes people from Africa, tests those people, and then projects the results on the African Americans within the American society. That also doesn't make any sense.
Oh, there's a pretty good debunking of bell curve, but the video is like 3 hours long. But the reason it's 3 hours long is because the book is like ridiculously long.
Can I get the link?
Yeah, could you please post it?
Well, you know who Sean? You know who Sean is?
The YouTuber, the bread tuber?
Yeah, that's the one.
No fucking way.
You could just do a YouTube search for Sean bell curve.
Well, I'm glad that it exists, though I just wish it wasn't by a bread tuber, mostly because people are gonna assume it's like motivated. Chum, do you think it's unreasonable for people to like discredit a response mostly because of the source it came from?
Not entirely, but generally, yeah.
So like say if I show like say Sean's video to like a right winger who presupposes race realism and he just dismisses it, do you think it's just unreasonable from his part?
Kind of, yeah.
Because of like the content it came from.
Yeah.
Oh no.
So you're taking issue with the people claiming that it's more to do with genetics? That's it?
We're not talking about that. We're talking about if somebody says that they're gonna dismiss it because of the source or whatever, purely because of the source. But like, there is the thing of like trustworthiness,
Well,
credibility, or
that's
whatever.
kind of ironic because is that Hagar who said that?
Well, it was a question, yeah. But like, if
I was
you
about to say because I actually Hagar did the same thing. So if that came out of her mouth, she's a hypocrite.
if there's
What did
I
they
literally
do?
sent her some shit. She's like, "Oh, I don't like this store." Or she doesn't have. Oh,
I still watched the shit that you sent me, the garbage that you sent me.
I don't think you did.
Yes, I did.
if the source is like has like a consistent history of dishonesty or like bad methodology or like anything like that, then I don't think that's a problem to dismiss it because of the source. Like if the source is like a white supremacist or whatever on whatever, like numbers of Jews that died or whatever, then there's like a reason to think that there's like some motivation. But even more specifically, if he's been like caught out in frauds before.
So like a good example would be like Alex Jones, Stormfront, Breitbart.
I mean, it's how we make decisions every day.
Chum.
Yeah.
Were you ever like a race realist when you were naive on the subject?
No.
No, ever? Because I used to be like a race realist when I was like new into like the whole like race thing. I thought that it was the case that like yeah, genetics to affect us, but it's not the case that like I was a race realist for the malicious method. I was just like, this makes the most sense to me. But then when you look into it more, and like, I guess the more I like talk to different people, it made me more think about the subject and like see it's not the case that it's just that simple.
Yikes.
What's yikes?
She used to be a race realist.
Yeah, I also used to be a right winger. Why is that surprising to you?
Yikes.
Wait, did you say like most malicious avenue or method or whatever? What was that?
I think people who subscribe to race realism do it for out of malicious intention, not because of
What?
being scientific.
Are you sure? Are you sure about that?
Yeah.
That's so fucking ridiculous, Hagar. Holy shit.
Wait.
That's wild.
Wait, you think the
Well-
people like JFG don't subscribe to race realism out of
Don't
malicious
give me some
intent
name.
or
Don't give me a
political-
fucking name. Don't give me some
It has
fucking
to do with
talking point or talking head. Okay.
it has
Huh?
to do with cultural upbringing or whatever. I think.
No,
What if
I wouldn't say
what
that
if I
either.
gave you a more
What?
cookie cutter example?
Because like my
where it's
reasoning
clearly
for-
genetics, or where it would seem that genetics have more of a role to play. Like, let's say if we have 7-foot tall family,
Can I
and that 7-foot tall guy has a kid who's 7 foot tall. I think we could say that that's mostly due to genetics in the family rather than the environment. I don't think you can really get off by saying, well, this guy has been eating
But what
really
does that have to
expensive
do with
steaks his whole life.
intelligence?
Yeah, if
What
you
does that have
feed
to do with intelligence?
if you feed the kid, then there's no problem. But height isn't height isn't something that's like akin to intelligence.
Exactly.
Right, but still, I just want you guys to. I just want you guys to understand that as a race realist, like that's enough for like I threw around this term race realism light. Like, this is kind of what I mean, is that there's a couple things here that I think a
Can't
lot of
just make
people
up
would
a new
agree with,
term.
that maybe
No.
not you people do this, but a lot
This
of
is
people would kind of
compassionate race realism.
demonize these people, right? They would say, oh, well, he's basically a race realist. You know, he's more worried about genetics here.
I think you're just a race realist. It doesn't
Yeah.
really matter what.
So
you're trying
basically
to
what you
define it.
guys are saying is that the only way you can be a race realist is if you're strictly talking about IQ differences and things like that, like cognitive.
Yeah, that's essentially what they've said, JonJon. Yeah, JonJon. Yeah.
I don't think that's controversial to say though.
Well, because from my understanding, I've heard people get demonized for simply saying there are differences amongst populations that can be explained by genetics rather than environment.
Yeah, because they're overly simplifying a situation based on genetics when it's not the case.
Well, the point is that they were not strictly talking about IQ and cognitive ability. They were simply talking about the fact that there are
They're
differences
still
amongst the
oversimplifying
populations.
it.
Maybe height would be one of those differences, and like, for example, height would
They
have
need
to
to
do
be
more
more
with one's
specific
genetics than
then.
environment.
Again, the issue is that they're not being specific and it's an oversimplification. That's the issue, JonJon.
Well,
by
I
the
think
way,
the
Toast.
issue is that people like you are having a hard time acknowledging simple truths like that, like the idea
What
that
simple
a
truths?
really tall person, when he keeps having tall kids and things like that, like, this is more to do with genetics rather than the environment.
Yeah.
Like, how the fuck are
okay.
you ever going to acknowledge something like that with your approach here?
Again, I think you're just trying to like attribute height with something that has
Okay,
nothing to do with
again,
height.
no one understands anything. Again, you're oversimplifying.
Isn't that what you're doing right now?
No, I'm literally mocking you because that's all you're going to offer me. That's all you have to offer me, is that I don't understand what I'm talking about. I'm oversimplifying everything. You don't address anything I'm telling you.
Yeah, don't you get it, JonJon? JonJon, what's so hard to fucking understand? You're a fucking idiot. No one's ever gonna try and like take you seriously in here. Just give up. Give the fuck up already.
I don't think I
Listen,
think I
I'm
called him an
sorry
idiot. I
you're
just think
so
it's
obsessed with social media, bud.
what?
I think he's
Huh?
sucking
Who are you
toes.
talking?
I was joking. That was sarcastic. What I said anyway.
Need to work on it though.
I know. I think I was thinking about sugar. Sugar and toast sound a little similar to me.
Toast sound the same.
I hope not. God.
That's interesting. That's interesting. Is it because they sound so effeminate?
Go fuck yourself, Hagar.
It's cute. What do you mean?
JonJon, I like you.
Aw.
I think what you debate about is interesting. Like the first time I heard it, I thought it was interesting, but not. I'm on like the bro, I'm on the 20th time of you making the same points. I don't.
That feeling when the scatterbrain like sugar even gets annoyed by JonJon.
Was that
Listen to how
necessary? Was that
arrogant Hagar
necessary?
is. How do you guys put up with this shit? Are you guys really that fucking much of a simp? Are you guys just a bunch of simps around here?
Not
Bunch of
really.
fucking betas who tolerate this type of treatment from fucking
I
Hagar?
get harassed on a
Hagar
daily
is not
basis, my
a
guy.
desirable woman, or
I get
What?
harassed on a daily basis. What do you mean?
I'm just saying, Hagar is far too fucking stupid to be allowed to act that arrogant.
What?
But the point is that she toes the party line. As long as she's towing the party line, she's fine. No one can hurt her. Right? That's the whole point, JonJon.
I don't know what you mean
You
by
can be a
that.
complete fucking idiot, but you toe the line.
She just called you scatterbrain.
I know. She's.
Pretty sure a lot of people call sugar a scatterbrain.
She tried to explain
she
to me
does-
earlier that she knew a ton about postmodernism, which
I
was
never
clearly
said.
false.
Wait, I
all
never
she
said I knew a
does is,
ton. Don't
toe the
gaslight me like
line.
this.
She just tries to fit in.
Don't gaslight me like this.
Pussy.
Don't. Wait, hold on. JonJon, I never said I knew a lot about postmodernism. I said I used
Apparently,
to be a
you know
postmodernist.
enough about postmodernism that you
There you
can
go.
tell me that an expert in philosophy has it wrong. That he doesn't
JonJon.
understand postmodernism.
JonJon, here, take a look. I posted in general chat for you. 23 points is the average rise IQ among students from all the people in the study.
JonJon,
That's
have you
pretty
ever
huge.
told a
Yeah, but I already explained to you that these people, you acknowledge, they were trained to score better on the test.
They were trained.
JonJon, have you
the
ever
kids
told
had training, yeah.
Have you ever told an expert in philosophy that they're wrong, JonJon?
What do you mean, so what? If you train people to score better, then it
Wait, do you
defeats the
think-
purpose of trying to use the IQ to determine anything.
There are people that go to like ACT and SAT prep. Do you think that because of the existence of ACT and SAT prep, that means that the ACT and SAT are now no longer useful in determining what people should be admitted into colleges? Or like for any that just if you're saying that just means that people that care about
I
what
think
their
it's
results
possible.
are
Just to be clear,
at work. Okay.
I got this
What's
from
up?
like Jordan Peterson. He's a psychologist. He probably knows quite a bit about IQ.
Psychologist.
His brain is mush.
So Jordan, listen, I'm
He's a
convinced
clinician.
by what Jordan is saying that clearly I'm not surprised. Like I think I'm getting the impression that you're not really accepting what's being said here. That like what Jordan and what I'm trying to explain to you is that if you train these people to score higher on the test, right?
Oh my lord.
And we see these people scoring higher on the test, we don't think that gets you what you think it's getting you here. Because what you think it's getting you is the complete dismissal of IQ, almost the complete dismissal
Sounds
of
like
IQ. because not
you're the one
completely
dismissing
dismissing.
it then. But it sounds like you're the one dismissing it when you say that if they like give people any kind of like aptitude training or teach children how to derive relations, then it means that like the IQ
I'm
isn't actually
pretty-
measuring their intelligence.
JonJon, I'm pretty sure that our whole education system is based on intelligence tests, right?
So, but that just yeah, I mean pretty much, but like that means then that like if somebody, as long as somebody is within as long as somebody is within like 2 or 3 derivations of someone else, they're basically as smart as the other person.
Anyways, JonJon, I don't know what your point is, but we already are ahead of the game on this. All we do is separate people based on intelligence tests. From
Well,
very
I'm
young
not on the
age.
same page with Big Chum. I think that, like, I think I understand what he's saying. He thinks that I'm dismissing IQ as being useful because I'm acknowledging that we can train people to score higher on the test. So that's where all the contention lies here, right? Is we're not seeing eye to eye on what that means. What does it mean that we can train people to score higher on IQ tests? We're
No,
not
but
seeing eye to eye on what that means,
What do you
right?
think? What do you think
I
happens
disagree-
to people who
JonJon.
just get a good education? They get trained to take
JonJon,
tests
I
well.
disagree with you. Oh god. Johnson, I disagree with you on intelligence tests and how important they are and everything, but our side is not winning this. Your side is the status quo. You are winning. Our whole society is based around these tests. So what are you complaining about? What?
This is the
Wait,
best.
his side's winning or whose side's winning?
Yes, his side's winning. Our whole
Oh yeah.
society our whole education system is based on intelligence tests.
Nobody's
Well, yeah,
winning.
listen, I think the main reason why my side is winning is because it's almost impossible to escape some certain truths about the utility of IQ. For example, one of them would be IQ is such a good predictor of economic success.
I disagree, but anyway, stop
for a very
complaining
long
so
time.
much.
Listen, for a very long time, having a much higher IQ than your neighbor didn't really give you that much of an advantage. But now that's completely changed. If you have a much higher IQ, you have tremendously more opportunities than
Anyways,
someone
I
who's
feel like
retarded.
your point is our society is moving away from intelligence tests, and I'm just assuring you that that's not the case. We're nowhere near moving away from intelligence tests. Everything comes down to intelligence tests, pretty much.
Can you
Grad
just say
school.
standardized testing? It sounds a lot better.
Yeah, I agree with you that
What
I'm
grad
kind of
school?
winning
What
the,
grad school?
my side's winning, but I was addressing what
What
Big
grad
Chum
school you
was
get into
saying directly.
depends on standardized tests. What high school you can get into depends on standardized tests. What college you can get to, undergrad, standardized tests. Everything is about standardized tests. Careers come down to standardized tests. Almost every field. I mean, we have not. No one is moving away from tests.
I think the issue with IQ, right, is that I agree with what you're saying, but I think the real issue is, and one of the conundrums is,
The real issue is there's no issue. There's no issue.
well, no. What about the lower IQ people who are having a hard time being economically viable? Because we have this I don't know how to say it, maybe we have this unfair expectation, right, that they must get a college degree and they must make themselves economically viable. But what if it's the case that you need at least 100, 115 IQ to be able to go get a degree and to go do these types of things? So there's going to be millions and millions of people.
They will work in Amazon warehouses.
And I think that the response we're getting is people like Big Chum Time hoping, right? Hoping dramatically. Right?
I'll tell you what we're gonna do. We're gonna mobilize these
and
people.
Being pushed in certain directions of thinking that conclude that we actually can pretty much manipulate IQ.
We're gonna mobilize these people.
Yeah, there are studies that show it. Yeah. So if
We're
this
gonna mobilize these people into
So
building
I just want
infrastructure.
to, I just want you to understand this, Chum.
the only
I want
study.
you to understand that if you were correct, if we could manipulate IQ in a very meaningful way, in other words, we can take an 80 IQ person and give them 100 IQ.
Yeah.
I promise you,
Says it right here.
sometime this would be such a big deal. You would get a Nobel Prize for being able to discover this.
What?
The reason
Well,
why
just click
there's
the
no
study.
Nobel
I linked
Prize-
you.
the
I
reason
added
why
you and I
this
linked
study
you.
isn't- Yes, I get it. You have a study. You have a study. But the reason why your study hasn't gained
He's
any
just gonna reject
traction,
it.
Big Chum Time, is because it's wrong. We can't. It's a very minuscule change in IQ. You're wrong about it.
Minuscule.
You're
Can I get a timeout real quick? Timeout, real quick. Just timeout. JonJon, I gave up on this group, this server, this little community a long time ago. I don't know why it's so hard for you to do that. Just give the fuck
Yeah,
up on them.
thanks, Toast. You're really adding.
I was so fucking done with Hagar and Chum and Sunseed like forever ago. I don't know why he still
Toast,
even
really
bothers
care.
preaching to you guys and taking out so much of his own energy, his own emotional energy on you guys.
Toast, what's with all
It's so fucking pointless. It's just so fucking beyond pointless and an exercise in futility.
Well, look,
and I don't know why
you have-
JonJon's just gonna sit on
you
here
have an
and drone
argument.
on and try and fucking
There's a
talk to you
problem
guys.
with-
It's not gonna work.
Toast, what's
Just
going on?
JonJon, grow the fuck up, dude.
Toast, what's going on, Bunny? What's going on, Toast?
Hey,
So it's
man,
kind
No,
of
it's just like JonJon sitting here for hours. Hours and hours and hours.
Yeah, it's good noise
Yeah,
in the
man, but
background.
what's
while
up
you
with all
like
those?
it, you just go to sleep.
Yeah,
Come
just
on,
say
negativity, Toast. We love you, Toast. Everyone loves you.
Shut up.
Oh my god, that's so adorable.
You know, this
Yeah, so
community
just to be
is a beautiful
clear, I
thing.
always found this to be fascinating. That we literally have people like Big Chum Time, who these people
was
are
a
literally
recording.
convinced that we can manipulate IQ
Oh my God, he's still
in such
going.
amazing ways. Like this is insane. Like Big Chum Tom, just to
Yeah.
clarify, you're
You
convinced
want me
that
to
we
find you
can
more
take a
studies?
really poor, malnourished child who has a
No.
low IQ.
No. Malnourishment is one of the biggest contributors of or determiners of if someone will have a low IQ. Like I'm just saying, if you take an average of children that are all like, let's say they have like a decent level of childhood nutrition, and then you give them this aptitude training. Wait, what's it called? Let me see.
This is insane. Chump, do you
I'll have to
think
find
that
the name.
all children have the same intelligence capabilities? They don't.
Roughly, yeah.
No,
Stupid.
listen, what
No,
Big Chum
no,
is
that's the
saying,
dumbest
we're
thing I've ever heard in my
talking
entire
past
life.
each other,
Will
by
you
the way.
just, Chump, will you just stop? Come on.
What's the
If you take a
problem?
bunch of children, they're gonna have all sorts of different intelligences. They just are.
Yeah, but roughly the same within like a reasonable range.
No, think of all the kids you grew up with that were just retarded.
What is that? What is that supposed to mean? Like, I'm saying,
What do you
if
mean? What does that mean? It means
you're
there's less
talking about
retarded people.
intelligence. You're talking about intelligence, and what do you mean by retarded? Like somebody that doesn't know how to add or shit? Like
70 IQ.
those
Nothing.
kids get it.
Do you know how
Those
many people
kids.
I grew up? You know how many teenagers and kids I grew up with that just didn't know how to do anything good at all? There's a lot of people like that.
Anything well,
Well,
sugar.
you guys are going to be talking past each other because Big Chum's strictly going to be talking about IQ. Not like you're kind of talking about something a little different than what Big Chum's saying because you're talking about differences in behavior, cognitive behavior maybe, cognitive ability maybe. But Big Chum's going to zone directly into the idea that he thinks IQ isn't measuring intelligence at all. You guys are about to just be talking past.
JonJon, you're like the king of talking past each other or talking past people. You know that?
Maybe that's why I could pick up on you doing it right now.
Whoa.
Whoa, too meta. Whoa,
So fucking meta.
too meta.
Yeah,
Chum's gonna
so
sit here and
I may
try
be
and tell me
wrong.
that
I
Landon
think
is
I'm
as
convinced
smart
by a
as
lot of. I think I'm convinced by a lot of what Big Chum is saying.
Have you
I'm
have
just
you
not
listened
sure
to
if this is
Landon
his
since he's come in
position.
here?
Chum, do you think Landon is within 2 quotients of a fucking like Danny in intelligence?
What?
Come on.
Oh, that was really bizarre.
my
I was just
original-
watching some tranny porn, and I couldn't tell if the voice coming out of the speaker was Sugar or the audio from the tranny porn. That was really weird.
It's weird that you're watching tranny porn and that's
Yeah,
supposed
well,
to be
we
based
know
on
what
me.
Chum just got done doing.
You're watching a bunch of
I mean,
tranny porn.
I mean,
Why are you watching tranny porn, Seth?
It was
he
a
had
joke.
he had to release the Kraken.
Okay.
Wait, you guys don't watch tranny porn? What?
Yo.
You guys
I
just
asked you-
aren't woke
I asked you, Chum, I asked you a
enough.
straightforward question.
This is weird.
What do you think the intelligence difference is between Landon and fucking Danny?
Yeah,
Oh my
but
God,
what is that?
We get it, Sugar.
what is-
We get the point you're making.
No, I don't get the point he's making. I don't get the point he's making.
He's saying that there's an inherent difference because Landon sounds like he's dumb when he talks because of his accent.
It's a hick.
There is
Like-
a big inherent difference besides just accent and intelligence between Landon and
Landon's
Danny.
learned so much since he's come in
Oh
here.
my
Can you
God.
imagine if Landon was exposed to the same kinds of stuff that you and I were exposed to learn
No,
from for his
not
whole
in
life?
not enough.
Well, that's the
10
question, though, right? That's the question,
Not in 10 lifetimes.
right? That's
will
that's an
Landon
open
ever
question,
have
right?
The intelligence of Danny.
Aw.
I gotta be honest. Like when I came to this community, there's a couple of things I was surprised at. One, that racism was like a thing still, and that was weird. I was like, what the fuck? These people are like, this is a joke or something. They like really dislike black people. And two, I was surprised that people thought that